Chapter 98. Most importantly, Elvis was standing beside the alluring Leah. Even if Leah had clearly explained to Gu Mengmeng that he and Elvis were not in that kind of relationship, the image was still too strong. Gu Mengmeng felt a warm sensation spreading in her nostrils, as if she was going to have a nosebleed again. "Leader, Daddy Leah, come up, hurry up." Gu Mengmeng panicked. She did not want to experience the entire tribe looking at her as if she was attending a funeral. Elvis frowned and rushed to Gu Mengmeng's side. As his body was wet, he did not dare to carry her. He just held her shoulders and asked with a serious face, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and laughed awkwardly. Could she say that she was about to have a nosebleed from the cuteness of Elvis and Lee's rotten image? Really? Elvis did not seem to believe her. Leah followed Elvis onto the shore. He stood behind Elvis and watched for a while. Finally, he stretched out his slender and bony hand to touch Gu Mengmeng's forehead. After confirming that her body temperature was normal, he pressed his palm on Gu Mengmeng's chest. His heart, which had just relaxed because she did not have a fever, suddenly became anxious again. This heartbeat, why was it so fast? And it seemed to be getting faster. Leah frowned and was about to say something when a crisp slap landed on Lee's face, followed by Gu Mengmeng's earth-shattering and deafening high-pitched scream. Leah frowned. Leah frowned. Leah was bewildered by the slap and Elvis was even more dumbfounded by Gu Mengmeng's scream. Even Sandy, who had been watching from the side, was dumbfounded and did not know what had happened. The one who reacted the fastest was Bode. He jumped out of the water and stood in front of Sandy. He looked around warily, thinking that there was an enemy invasion. Gu Mengmeng shouted until the last bit of air in her chest was sucked dry. She then stopped with a red face. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and hugged her shoulders. She glared fiercely at Leah, as if she was about to cry. She was like a young wife who was being teased by someone glaring at a hooligan. Leah pointed at his own nose in confusion and asked, "Did I do something wrong? What the hell?" Gu Mengmeng looked at everyone else who had a blank look on their faces. She really wanted to cry but had no tears. If this was the modern world, Lee's actions would definitely be considered sexual harassment. But in this era, what kind of era was this? She had hugged Colin, and Sandy had wanted her to take Colin as her partner. She had been attacked in the chest, and no one had spoken up for her. Clenching her teeth, Gu Mengmeng answered fiercely, "No." How the hell was he supposed to explain that a girl's body couldn't be touched casually? Telling orcs like them, who didn't even know what their daddy was useless. Gu Mengmeng felt extremely aggrieved, but she could not say it out loud. She could only press her face into a steamed bun, pouting as she walked towards the pile of fish. She stopped in her tracks and turned back to look at Sandy. "Sandy, come and help." "Oh, okay, I'm coming." Sandy still felt that she could not keep up with Gu Mengmeng's pace. She did not know why she was suddenly happy or angry. But there was one thing she knew. Gu Mengmeng always had her own reasons. She would not be wrong to trust her. Sandy answered as she walked towards Gu Mengmeng. But before she could take 2 steps, she was stopped by Leah. Chapter 99. You have a secret in your heart? Leah stared at Gu Mengmeng, whose face was getting redder as he got closer to her. The curve of his lips brought a hint of warmth. If one did not look closely, it would look no different from usual, but the gentleness he exuded could not be deceived. No. Gu Mengmeng denied flatly. Leah did not insist, he just held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and pressed it against the left side of his chest, where his heart was. He gently hugged her waist and pulled her closer to him, so that Gu Mengmeng was pressed against his chest. "I let you touch it back, so don't be angry, alright?" Gu Mengmeng wanted to retract her little hand as if she had been electrocuted, but Leah did not give her any chance. He placed his palm on the back of her hand, pressing it tightly against his chest. He tilted his head slightly and said with a gentle gaze, "I have a secret in my heart. If I cut it out for you to see, you won't be angry at me anymore, alright?" Huh? Gu Mengmeng fluttered her thick eyelashes, looking at Leah in confusion. Promise me. Leah smiled, extending his sharp claws in front of Gu Mengmeng, cutting into the flesh inch by inch along the edge of Gu Mengmeng's little hand. What are you doing? That bright poppy-like blood rolled down Lee's fingertips. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment, then struggled to break free from Lee's little hand, holding on to Lee's wrist that had turned into a sharp claw, preventing him from hurting her anymore. She could only feel anger in her heart, glaring at him and saying, "Self-harm is the most stupid thing to do. But, it's the most effective." Leah retracted his fingernails, then pulled his arm inwards. Gu Mengmeng, who was holding onto his wrist, flew into Lee's arms. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, using a strength that made him want to knead her into his body to imprison her, as if that was the only way to prove that she really existed. Your heart aches, right? Leah asked, the faint smile in his eyes carrying a tinge of joy and a tinge of palpitation. The injury just now was just a small cut on the flesh. A wound of this degree would heal automatically before night falls, but such a small wound could cause such a huge reaction from her. Although self-harm was stupid, but it was worth it. Yes, my heart aches. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and pressed harshly on Lee's wound. Half of her fingertips sank into his flesh and the warmth of the blood from her fingertip made Gu Mengmeng's heart ache. Aren't you just bullying me for feeling sorry for you? Let me tell you, those who make me sad will not have a good ending. Leah arched his back and tiny beads of sweat covered his forehead. His eyes, however, were staring at Gu Mengmeng lovingly without blinking, not moving away from her face for even a moment. Seeing that Leah was in so much pain, Gu Mengmeng hurriedly retracted her little hand that was pretending to be fierce, but her wrist was held tightly by Leah, unwilling to let her escape just like that. You haven't seen that secret yet. Leah held Gu Mengmeng's hand and placed it into his wound, as if the person bleeding was not him. He smiled seductively and said, "Cut open my heart, I'll let you see who it belongs to." Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with tears. No. I don't want that. Gu Mengmeng pulled back her hand with all her might. How could she be Lee's match in terms of strength? Seeing that her fingertips were about to touch Lee's wound again, Gu Mengmeng's big eyes were filled with pleading as she said in a sobbing tone, "I beg you, don't do this. Aside from the topic, it's time to promote the correct values again. Little cuties, self-harm is really an extremely stupid act, you must never learn it." Chapter 100. Can't bear to? Leah did not care about his wound at all, as if it was not worth mentioning. With a faint smile on his face, he inched his flawlessly handsome face closer to Gu Mengmeng and asked in a faint voice, "Then forgive me, don't be angry, all right?" Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing that Leah was no longer pulling her, Gu Mengmeng pouted her lips and said pitifully, "You have to promise me that you won't harm yourself in the future." "As you wish." Leah loosened his grip on Gu Mengmeng's wrist and turned to hug her slender waist. With a light lift, he hugged her into his arms and rubbed her little face intimately before continuing to ask, "Tell me, what did I do wrong just now? I don't want to see you angry anymore, this place hurts." Gu Mengmeng looked at the bleeding wound that Leah was pointing at and groaned sullenly. The sullen feeling of being molested had long been scattered into dust by Lee's stirring. Now that she heard his heartache, Gu Mengmeng actually felt a sense of sweetness and warmth in her heart. F***ck, could this be the legendary Stockholm Syndrome? You're still distracted after being hugged by me? Who are you thinking about? Leah squinted his long and narrow eyes. Ambiguity and jealousy merged perfectly on his fairy-like face, colliding into an extreme temptation. No, I'm not thinking about anyone. Gu Mengmeng did not know why, even though Elvis's original body was much fiercer than Lee's, she seemed to be more afraid of Leah. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng doubtfully and raised his eyebrows, signaling Gu Mengmeng to answer his question just now. Gu Mengmeng looked elsewhere guiltily. Her little face was burning and even her throat was so tight that she could only squeeze out a very soft voice from her throat and say, "You can't touch a girl's body so casually." Leah smiled wickedly and hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin with his index finger. He brought her face closer to his and stared at her as if he was looking at a piece of delicious food. He licked his lips suggestively and asked in a slightly arrogant tone, "Then what should I do when I want to hug you?" Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with disdain. "Hugging doesn't count," Gu Mengmeng replied, blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng with a mischievous smile, as if he had discovered something. Gu Mengmeng was stunned by his smile and her face turned even redder. She said angrily, "I'm not asking for a hug." "Oh. Oh." Li's smile became wider. He liked Gu Mengmeng's shy and bashful look, it was so cute. "Oh, what do you mean? I'm really not asking for a hug." Gu Mengmeng really could not explain herself. She pushed Leah and wanted to leave his arms, but this sly fox actually pressed the wound on his chest against her. As long as she used a little more strength, he would definitely bleed. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and thought to herself, "Are you sure you can't bear to hurt me? You're ruthless, you've guessed correctly." "I really can't bring myself to do it." Leah did not answer Gu Mengmeng's question, he just used his index finger to hold her chin and asked, "Other than your heart, is there any other place that will make you angry if I touch it? Tell me, okay?" Once Leah asked this question, Elvis, who was standing at the side, could not help but perk up his ears. Gu Mengmeng said angrily, "You can't touch any place that is covered by clothes." Leah pondered for a moment, then said with a serious face, "Next time, I'll help you take off your clothes first." Gu Mengmeng was so angry that she screamed in her heart, "Hey! Hurry and tell me you're not serious." Chapter 101. While Gu Mengmeng was cursing in her heart, there was already a commotion on the other side. A group of males galloped over on horseback. Gu Mengmeng felt her scalp go numb as she looked at the weird prey the males were carrying in their hands. What the heck, they were all protected animals like tigers, lions, and bears. There were also some that she could not even name, no, she had never even seen them before, but they were obviously precious animals. But these males just threw these animals away like they were cabbages, piling them together with the fishes that Leah, Elvis, and Bode had caught. Gu Mengmeng was speechless as she asked the heavens, "Isn't the beast deity going to do something about this?" Leah followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and the corners of his lips curved upwards, forming a beautiful arc. These males were really willing to put in a lot of effort. It was almost winter and these plump preys that had long been hidden were probably preys that they had been observing for a long time but did not make a move on, waiting for the winter to end before hunting them. To please Gu Mengmeng, they even took out their food reserves to protect themselves during winter. They were really blinded by lust. Like it? Leah saw that Gu Mengmeng was staring straight at them and said helplessly, "Elvis and I also have some food reserves. If you like it, I can hunt it for you." Still hunt? Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in shock. Meeting his mesmerizing eyes, she could not help but soften her tone. She smiled apologetically and said, "Let's settle these first, it will be a waste if we can't finish them." Although she said that, Gu Mengmeng had already decided to only eat fish. Damn tigers and whatnot, she could not bring herself to eat them. "Alright, I'll listen to you." Leah carried Gu Mengmeng and had no intention of letting her down. Just like that night when he saved her from Quentin's hands and brought her back to the tribe. She placed her hands behind her back and shook her head as she looked at the group of well-built, good-looking males. She felt as if she was filming Descendants of the Sun 2. Yeah, she was acting as the demon female instructor. Although Song Joong-ki was not around, there was Elvis and Leah. Moreover, there was a group of males who could be teased by her. Kaka, how could a single word describe the feeling of love? Gu Mengmeng, the tiger I hunted is the tiger king in this area. It's one of the best among the wild beasts. It has a strong body and usually eats the healthiest animals. There was a male whose name Gu Mengmeng could not remember at all because of Elvis and Lee's comparison. Gu Mengmeng gave him a thumbs up. A hero who fights tigers. Not bad, not bad. You have the power of Wusong. The male who hunted the tiger muttered in his heart, Wusong. A new adjective? Is it the same as the word tough guy used to describe Barrett? It should be about the same, but who cared what he meant, it was Gu Mengmeng who praised him just now. Chapter 102. Gu Mengmeng looked at the one who hunted the tiger just now, whose face was red from holding back and looked like he was about to attack. She quickly came out to calm things down and said, "Brave one, you even dare to hunt a snow fox, aren't you afraid of Leah beating you up?" The one who hunted the snow fox looked at Gu Mengmeng blankly, then looked at Leah and asked seriously, "Why did Leah beat me up?" Leah did not answer the fox hunter. Instead, he held on to Gu Mengmeng's waist and knocked on her little head lightly. Seeing how she was holding her head in pain with a face full of grievance, he could not help but laugh but did not want to let her off so easily. So, he used the most gentle smile and a slightly cold tone to ask, "Are you comparing me with a wild fox?" Gu Mengmeng shrunk her neck and waved her hands, saying, "No, no, Daddy Leah, you are strong and mighty, ruling over the world. How can a mere wild fox be compared to you?" "Oh." Leah obviously enjoyed Gu Mengmeng's flattery, even though he knew that she was not being sincere, so what if she was making it up? He loved to hear whatever she said. "Really, really." Gu Mengmeng nodded her head seriously and emphasized her tone. "Be good." Lee's lips landed on Gu Mengmeng's little earlobe and he bit it not too hard or too light. Then, he let go of her in satisfaction, allowing her to continue inspecting everyone's prey like a supervisor. Gu Mengmeng blushed. No matter how many times she did it, she could not get used to Daddy Lee's ambiguous actions. Everyone was watching. Cough cough. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and said, "Everyone's prey is very good, I won't look at them one by one due to time constraints. In order to let everyone eat more delicious food, I need a small team to accompany me to carry out a very important mission. Who is willing to go with me?" "I." Gu Mengmeng was almost stunned by the undulating sound of the same voice. Don't, there's no need for so many people. Around 3 to 5 people would be enough. Everyone has to work together, otherwise it would be too inefficient." Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, the crowd is too passionate, it also makes people feel pressured. Elvis went forward and carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms, glancing at the boiling male beast with a cold face. The pressure he unintentionally emitted successfully controlled the scene. "Leah and I will accompany you." "That's enough." Elvis's calm voice was filled with absolute confidence. Coincidentally, Gu Mengmeng did not want Elvis and Leah to follow her, because if they did, she could forget about doing anything. So Gu Mengmeng said with a fawning expression, "That won't do, you and Daddy Leah are the only 2 people in the tribe who know how to start a fire other than me. We need quite a lot of firewood to feed so many people. If I bring the 2 of you away, who would know how to start a fire? Who would dare to light a fire?" No, you 2 have to stay here and light the fire." Hearing Gu Mengmeng's words, Elvis and Leah felt an indescribable sense of pride. She said they were irreplaceable. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, flattery will never work. The ancients did not deceive me. Thus, Gu Mengmeng struck while the iron was hot and whispered into Elvis's ear, "Moreover, look at how they go berserk at the slightest provocation. If not for you and Daddy Leah here to control the situation, I reckon they would have destroyed the entire tribe by the time I return." Elvis actually did not hear clearly what Gu Mengmeng said. Because when her warm breath landed on his ear, a numb feeling spread from his ear to his entire body. His heart was so manic that it was deafening. That thumping heartbeat almost broke his eardrums. Aside from the topic. Chapter 103. Leader, just let me go, alright? Gu Mengmeng tugged at Elvis's arm and swung it left and right, acting coquettishly without any integrity. "Oh." Elvis nodded his head blankly and responded. "Yeah. Leader, you're the best," as Gu Mengmeng said. She kissed Elvis's face and was about to run. But before she could take 3 steps, Leah grabbed her arm and pulled her into Lee's arms. "What about me?" Leah leaned his beautiful face forward and Gu Mengmeng's face heated up. Her heart raced and she felt uneasy. Glancing left and right, she lied to herself and found an empty spot where no one was looking to give Leah a peck on his face. Then, she turned around and ran away as if she was running for her life. She shouted while running, "Cole, Bode and the one who hunted the snow fox just now, the 3 of you, follow me." Cole naturally did not say anything. It was as if he was waiting for Gu Mengmeng's call at any time. When he heard Gu Mengmeng calling his name, he dashed behind Gu Mengmeng without hesitation and was the closest to her. Bode was a little unwilling, but seeing Sandy giving him a strong push, obviously telling him to listen to Gu Mengmeng's arrangements, he could only bear with the awkwardness and follow. The slowest one to react was actually Oakley, who hunted the snow fox. Happiness came too suddenly and he was a little unprepared. "Oakley, hurry up." Colin automatically assumed the role of the deputy leader of the special operations team. After all, he was the closest to Gu Mengmeng here, as he had helped her wash the rabbits before. Oh. I'm coming. Oakley did not dare to delay any longer, as he was afraid that others would snatch his chance to get close to the little female. So, he hurriedly chased after her. Luckily, Gu Mengmeng's speed, it was too easy to catch up. So, Oakley was seriously considering if he should pretend that he could not catch up to her. But would Gu Mengmeng think that he was too useless? Just as he was hesitating, Bode said impatiently, "Let Colin carry you, it's faster that way." Gu Mengmeng pouted and said, "I have my own legs." Bode glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng's two slender legs and sneered, "Ha, I can tell." Just as Gu Mengmeng was about to flare up, she saw Bode running over 10 meters away in a flash. He raised his head from afar and said, "Hey, little female with long legs, why don't you start running?" "You." Gu Mengmeng stomped her feet and said, "So what if you run fast? I'll go back and tell Sandy that you bullied me." "You." Bode's face darkened and he lost his temper. The most important reason why he deliberately provoked Sandy was because ever since Sandy got to know this little female, he had focused all his attention on her. If not for the fact that Gu Mengmeng was really in heat, he would have treated Gu Mengmeng as a weaker male love rival. It was indeed embarrassing to compete with a female, but what could he do? He was also in despair. His little female could not see anyone else other than Gu Mengmeng. All the males in the family were in danger of losing their favor. What about me? Gu Mengmeng would not lose to Bode in terms of aura. If she could not win the first round, Bode would not take her seriously. In that case, if Bode bullied Sandy in the future, how could she stand up for Sandy? Although the possibility was not high, she would rather kill the wrong person than let him off. Aside from the topic, I'll reply to the messages left by the little babies in QQ Book City. I saw some babies saying that Leah has too many scenes. Since the male lead is destined to be Elvis, should Lee's scenes be cut down appropriately? Regarding this question, my answer is, Elvis is definitely the male lead. Sir Wolfman is talking about Elvis. But Leah is also a very important character. At the current stage, he is someone that Gu Mengmeng likes more than Elvis. Although Wen is in the third person, the main point of view is based on Gu Mengmeng. She now cares about Leah, so Lee's scenes are destined to be the most important. Chapter 104. Gu Mengmeng snorted at Bode with her nostrils, then continued speaking with her head held high. "If not for Sandy, do you think I would be willing to bring you out?" Gu Mengmeng would never admit that she had brought Bode out mainly because she could remember the names in the tribe. Moreover, other than Elvis, Leah, Colin and Bode were the only ones present. Although Bode was aggrieved, he had no other choice. If Gu Mengmeng was a male, he could still fight until one side was convinced. But Gu Mengmeng was a female, and he was not Quentin. He could not do anything to a female. Moreover, if Gu Mengmeng was hurt by him, not to mention how Elvis and Leah would deal with him, even Sandy would not let him off. Thinking of how Sandy worshipped Gu Mengmeng, Bode shook his head gloomily and took a step back. He shifted his face to the side and said in an impatient tone, "Why did you bring the three of us out? Hurry up and tell me, I still need to accompany Sandy after I am done with you." Gu Mengmeng's lips curved upwards and she gave a cheeky smile. "Sandy has me, does she still need you to accompany her?" Very good, this stab hit the bull's eye. Bode could not retort after being ridiculed and could only take a deep breath, feeling even more aggrieved. Gu Mengmeng saw Bode admitting defeat and felt a little smug. "Bickering with me? I can talk you to death." Turning around, Gu Mengmeng looked at Colin and the man standing at the side. She touched her chin and asked, I heard Colin call you Oakley just now. Yes, I am Oakley, from the Lynx tribe. Oakley's lips curled into a faint smile. If one looked closely, he looked like Leah. But he did not look like a deity, nor did he look like a demon. Compared to Leah, he could only be considered as average handsomeness. Gu Mengmeng nodded and repeated while thinking, Lynx tribe, no wonder you could hunt such a precious female snow fox. Oakley's eyes curved into crescents as his heart surged, do you know? Gu Mengmeng praised me. Gu Mengmeng did not care much about Oakley's thoughts. She tilted her head and asked Colin, eh? I still don't know what race you are from. Colin gave a silly smile and replied, like Sandy, I'm a bear. Oh, no wonder you know about bees. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while, then looked at Bode who was drawing circles at the side and cursing someone. Hey, Sandy said you know about bees. Oh, no. Where is the nest of the yellow needle insects, right? You called the three of us out to get the yellow sauce. Bode looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He quickly shook his head and said, No, Sandy has specially instructed me not to bring you to the nest of the yellow needle insects. If you need yellow sauce, you can ask Elvis or Leah to help you find it. They are the strongest warriors in Saint Nazaire, they can definitely help you get a lot. TSK. I'm just asking you if you know. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Gu Mengmeng widened her eyes and stepped on a huge rock with one leg, looking like a female bandit blocking the road to rob. Of course, if her small physique could be more burly, or Bode could be more skinny, maybe the scene would not look so funny. Bode really wanted to deny it and say he did not know. But if he said that, it would be equivalent to saying that Sandy was lying. Sandy cared so much about Gu Mengmeng. If Gu Mengmeng distanced herself from her because she thought that Sandy was a female who liked to lie, Sandy would definitely be very upset. Clenching his teeth, Bode still nodded his head and said, I know. Aside from the topic, thank you to bookfriend 15*88 from QQ Reading for providing the names. But in this beast world, other than the female lead, the names are all European. The names you provided are too deep in China, so it's not suitable for this novel. But thank you for your valuable suggestions also. Thank you to bookfriend 1727496011 for your message. I will take care of my health, thank you for your concern. Chapter 105. Gu Mengmeng fluttered her long and thick eyelashes and stared at Bode for a while, realizing that he had no intention to continue speaking. She frowned and slapped Colin's stomach. Her soft little hand made a crisp sound as it collided with Colin's strong abdominal muscles. Gu Mengmeng originally wanted to intimidate Colin to tell her the location of the beehive in an imposing manner, but in the end, she underestimated the sturdiness of Colin's abdominal muscles. From her fingers to her forearm, she used all her strength to slap Colin. Ouch! Gu Mengmeng wailed, feeling that her hand was crippled. Aya, Gu Mengmeng, how's your hand? Does it hurt a lot? I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Colin's heart ached terribly as he held Gu Mengmeng's little hand carefully, but did not know what to do. Why don't we let Oakley send you back to Saint Nazaire first and let Leah check if your hand is fine? Leave the yellow sauce to me and Bode, we'll definitely bring it back for you, okay? When Gu Mengmeng heard that he wanted her to turn back, how could she agree? So he shook his numb hand and said, No need. I'm fine. But Colin was still worried. He wished his eyes could turn into X-rays and see every cell on Gu Mengmeng's hand clearly through the skin. No buts, listen to me. Gu Mengmeng placed her hands on her hips. So what if she lost her imposing manner? Even if he dropped the ball, he still had to change his style. Gu. Colin still wanted to say something, but Gu Mengmeng placed a finger on his lips. That pretty little face was right in front of him. Colin swallowed his saliva instinctively, but did not say another word. After settling Colin, Gu Mengmeng then turned around to continue, threatening Bode, if you're smart, just tell me where the nest of the yellow needle insects is. Otherwise, he. Bode looked disdainfully at Gu Mengmeng, who was as weak as a cub. The forced cunning smile on her sweet face did not seem threatening at all, but instead made people feel that she was mischievous and cute. Although she could not be compared to their Sandy, she was barely worthy of the title of the first beauty of Saint Nazaire. But this little fellow wanted to scare him? He's still a little too tender. What else can I do? Is he going to complain to Sandy again? You can go. Sandy won't blame me for this. Sandy would be mad at me if I took you to the nest of the yellow needles. Bode crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the tree trunk at the side, clearly not taking Gu Mengmeng's warning seriously. Gu Mengmeng saw that using force was not going to work, so she changed her strategy. She shook her head helplessly and sighed, "All right, since you are so insistent, I will not make things difficult for you. It's just that Sandy was looking forward to my yellow gravy barbecue." Everything was prepared except for the yellow gravy barbecue. Sigh, that little foodie, how disappointed would she be if she couldn't eat the yellow gravy barbecue? Thinking about the tears in her innocent eyes, it was really heartbreaking to the listener to hear it and cry. But don't worry, Bode, even if you can't fulfill Sandy's little wish, I won't ridicule you in front of her. The males in the tribe won't laugh at you either. Sandy won't think that you don't love her and refuse to do such a small thing for her. You. Bode finally understood that this was a blatant threat. So this was what he meant? It's all right, don't worry. Gu Mengmeng interrupted Bode's words and continued on her own. No matter how disappointed and sad Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. At most, there will be other males who will take the opportunity to win her heart and become her most important partner. Isn't it just a drop in status in the family and being laughed at by others for being the most useless first partner who can't stand up straight? These are all small matters, right? Gu Mengmeng interrupted Bode's words and said to herself, no matter how disappointed Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. Aside from the topic, replying to book friend 30***67, I was really touched after reading your comments. Thank you for liking it also. Why did you only reply to the comments on QQ Bookstore and not on Xiaoxiang's website? Because I had directly replied to all the comments on Xiaoxiang's website. Backstage Bookstore did not have a backstage, so I could only reply like this. Chapter 106. You. Bode was so angry that he wanted to bite someone. But Gu Mengmeng was a female. Why? Why was this annoying Gu Mengmeng not a male? And you guys. Gu Mengmeng turned around to look at Colin and Oakley. No one is allowed to tell anyone that Bode is unwilling to help Sandy find the yellow sauce. Sandy had always been bullied by Nina in the past, causing her to have such a submissive personality that she would cry over even the smallest matter. If this matter was made known to the entire tribe, who knew what kind of criticism Sandy would receive? By then, that damned Nina would definitely say that Sandy is a half-orc, something along the lines of, it must be because Sandy is a half-orc, that's why Bode is unwilling to help her with such a small matter. That Nina would definitely say that. I don't want Sandy to listen to such harsh and sarcastic remarks, so all of you better keep your mouths shut. No one is allowed to leak a single word. Colin and Oakley looked at each other and thought to themselves, although it sounds like he's defending Sandy, why do I feel that something's not quite right about it? I'll bring you there. Bode could not hold it in any longer. It did not matter how much he was mocked and mocked, even if Sandy found a new partner in the future, he would already be mentally prepared. But if Sandy was to be bullied by Nina because of this matter, he would definitely not tolerate it. Really? Gu Mengmeng turned her head to look at Bode suspiciously, her face full of doubt. Really? Bode could not explain why, but he always felt that he was always on the losing end whenever he met Gu Mengmeng. Although they would fight with Nina's partners from time to time when Nina bullied Sandy, and were often beaten up badly by Quentin, but he could at least fight for Sandy then. Damn, why was it that whenever he met Gu Mengmeng, she would just blabber on and he would be unable to defend himself? Grievance, so damn grievance. Bode firmly believed that he must ask Sandy to stay away from Gu Mengmeng when they return. Or else she would be led astray by Gu Mengmeng sooner or later. But, this was all in the future. The most important thing now was to bring Gu Mengmeng to find the yellow sauce, but also to ensure that she would not be killed by the yellow needle insects. Or else, he would not be able to answer to Sandy. Thinking about this, Bode cleared his throat and said, I can bring you there, but you have to stand far away with Oakley. Once something goes wrong, let Oakley bring you and run first. Gu Mengmeng looked at Oakley, suddenly feeling that her mounts after she came to the beast world. In the past, who would have thought that she could ride a black wolf and a snow fox? Or maybe she could even ride a lynx. Mengmeng, Gu Mengmeng Gu. Gu Mengmeng answered without hesitation, causing Bode to suspect that she had no intention of abiding by the agreement. Gu Ding Hao, then Dali boomed. When the four of them finally reached the beehive, Gu Mengmeng pushed Bode away and walked forward while shaking her head. She walked to the bottom of the beehive and raised her head to take a look. Not bad, pure wild honey. The beehive was big and sturdy, and she could faintly see the golden honey inside. The worker bees in and out busy. Dong. Gu Gu was Gu Dong. Chapter 107. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders at Bode indifferently and said softly, as long as you don't panic, the yellow needle insects won't attack suddenly. Calm down a little. The veins on Bode's forehead bulged and he shouted for the 100th time in his heart, why isn't Gu Mengmeng a male? Gu Mengmeng was not willing to waste any more time, so she returned before Bode exploded. Dusting off the dust on her hands, Gu Mengmeng started to assign tasks. Colin, you have more strength, help me find some dried leaves and damp branches. All right. Colin naturally had no objections to Gu Mengmeng's arrangement. He nodded and went to the side to collect the things that Gu Mengmeng wanted. Oakley, when Colin is done preparing the things, can you help me start the fire? Gu Mengmeng was not that familiar with Oakley, so she was naturally more polite to him. But Gu Mengmeng's politeness made Oakley feel a lot disappointed. It must be because he did not work hard enough on the night when Gu Mengmeng became an adult and did not perform as well as Colin. That was why Gu Mengmeng was so distant towards him. Oakley decided to perform better in the following days, so he nodded his head firmly and promised that he could complete the mission. Gu Mengmeng turned around to look at Bode and drew circles in front of Bode with her fair and slender fingers. She dragged her voice and said, Bode was still impatient as he totally did not understand what this female wanted. She said she wanted to find the yellow sauce for a while and then made a fuss when he did not bring her along. Now that she was here, she said she wanted to start the fire. Forget it, your mission is already completed and there's nothing else for you to do. Gu Mengmeng's face was filled with disdain and she simply turned her head away and ignored Bode. Colin was extremely fast. Anyway, he was gathering the materials from the ground, so it was not difficult to find the dried leaves and damp branches. So while Gu Mengmeng and Bode were not happy with each other, he had already carried a huge bunch of dried leaves and 10 over damp branches back. Gu Mengmeng, do you think these are enough? As Colin spoke, he took out 2 tree branches that were stored separately from his armpits. There are 2 dry ones here. I saw Elvis and Leah using dry tree branches when they lit the fire, so I brought 2 along. Do you want to use them? Yes. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head like she was pounding garlic. Colin, I didn't see it coming. You look simple and honest, but you're actually a careful person. Colin scratched his head in embarrassment. He sat cross-legged on the ground and prepared to drill the wood to start a fire. However, he had only drilled it twice when he pinched the dry branch into 2 pieces. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and took the branch from Colin's hand. Leave this to Oakley. You have other important things to do later. Colin was also embarrassed. He had never thought that drilling wood to make a fire was a delicate job. But seeing that Gu Mengmeng was not disappointed in him because of this, Colin felt much more at ease. He simply handed the branch to Oakley and watched from the side with Gu Mengmeng. Although Oakley was not as smart as Leah, he quickly grasped the knack. A thin wisp of smoke rose up and Gu Mengmeng hurriedly piled the dried leaves inside. Then, she pointed at the leaves that looked like an elephant's ear. Colin, pull 2 leaves and fan them. Colin reached out his hand and pulled 2 leaves off. Then, he started fanning them one by one. Gu Mengmeng's face darkened. She turned her head and asked, "Why are you fanning me? Who asked you to fan the fire?" Aside from the topic, yesterday, I plucked up my courage to look for the editor and said that everyone thinks that NPC is good. Can I write NPC? The great editor told me seriously, "We are cracking down." Chapter 108. With everyone's help, Gu Mengmeng's plan to start the fire was successfully carried out. Gu Mengmeng saw that the fire was still burning brightly and wanted to praise Colin and Oakley, but she saw that the two fellows were already clenching their molars so tightly that their facial nerves looked a little hideous. Sigh, being afraid of fire was an animal's nature, Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders to express her helplessness. She could not count on the help of these two fellows who were afraid of fire, so Gu Mengmeng could only add the damp branches to the fire pile herself. Not long after, thick smoke rose in spirals, as if thick ink had dripped into a clear water tank, brewing enchanting and beautiful ink marks. The place where Gu Mengmeng started the fire was naturally the air vent, so the wind blew from her back, blowing the thick smoke towards the beehive. At first, a few worker bees came out to check on the situation, then swarms of bees rushed out of the beehive like a torrent of water, flying in the opposite direction of the smoke as if they were escaping for their lives, completely not noticing the culprit Gu Mengmeng standing not far away. When most of the bees had flown out, and the remaining few had fainted from the thick smoke, Gu Mengmeng then used the damp grass and leaves to extinguish the fire pile. The smoke looked scary, but the fire was actually not that big. After dealing with the aftermath, Gu Mengmeng patted her hands that were black from the soot, raised her chin and looked at the three males who were dumbfounded. She happily accepted the worship and shock in their eyes with a complacent expression. "All right, do you know what to do next?" Gu Mengmeng's big, lively eyes were embedded on her dirty little face. She gave Colin and the other two a "do it" look, but the three of them still maintained their dazed gazes and looked at her, as if they did not understand what had happened from the start. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, "Sigh, brains are a good thing, but they actually did not have it. If she was not afraid of Leah and Elvis stopping her, she really should have brought the two of them along." Helplessly, she could only use these three people now, and that Bode was still someone she could not rely on. Gu Mengmeng sighed and could only pull herself together. She patted Colin's shoulder and said, "Colin, hug me." "Huh?" Colin blinked his big eyes, before nodding his head with a smile. He stretched out his arms and lowered his head shyly, not daring to look at Gu Mengmeng in the eye. He was like a little girl who was reluctant but welcoming at the same time. Gu Mengmeng frowned and said with a look of disdain, "You're almost 2 meters tall, why are you acting shy? It doesn't match your character at all." Colin did not know how to reply to Gu Mengmeng's sarcasm. He just lowered his head feeling wronged, thinking to himself, "I'm really too stupid, I made Gu Mengmeng angry again, don't blush." Gu Mengmeng was going crazy. She really could not stand a muscular man who was almost as strong as Schwarzenegger behaving like a little wife in front of her. Who was the one who risked his life to rush the tower last night and was covered in blood? Beast deity, hurry up and take this effeminate fake goods away. Oh. Colin nodded vigorously, but he didn't know how to keep his face from turning red, and the more anxious he was, the redder his face seemed to become. What to do? How hopeless. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and gave up on Colin's character. She turned to Oakley and said, "Oakley, hug me for a while." "All right." Oakley nodded and walked to Gu Mengmeng to hug her lightly. Then, he let go of her obediently and stood back at his original spot. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see a flock of crows flying past her head in a flock. She just wanted someone to carry her to harvest the beehive. Why did it seem like she was asking for hugs everywhere? Can't we just have fun? Aside from the topic, thank you to the QQ Reading Baby, Bubble Milk Tea, for tipping 100 Reading B. She also replied to the little baby, M.O. She's question, regarding how Leah would react. I've already answered it in the reader group. It's not convenient to say more in the comments. Believe me, I have my own difficulties. Chapter 109. Gu Mengmeng's face darkened. Forget it, I won't count on you guys. I'll climb up the tree myself. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and gave up the idea of communicating with these males helplessly. She walked towards the hive by herself. How would Colin and Oakley dare to let her walk over alone? So they kept their lingering thoughts and hurriedly followed her. Colin stood in front of Gu Mengmeng, ready to use himself as a meat shield to protect her. Oakley followed closely behind Gu Mengmeng, ready to bring Gu Mengmeng away if the yellow needle insects attacked. Although Bode found Gu Mengmeng extremely annoying, she was a precious female after all. Moreover, she was someone that Sandy valued so much. So if there was any danger, he must protect Gu Mengmeng even if he had to sacrifice himself. This was the responsibility of a male. Gu Mengmeng sighed deeply. The damn bees had already flown away long ago, but these guys were still advancing like the Japanese entering a village with a minesweeper posture. By the time they reached the place, the damn bees would have flown back. Move away if you guys are afraid, don't delay me from collecting the yellow sauce, alright? Gu Mengmeng pushed Colin, who was blocking in front of her. Colin had some understanding of the yellow needle insects, he knew how powerful they were. Seeing Gu Mengmeng's fearless look, he became more worried, so he licked his lips and said, "Why don't you just stand here and wait, I'll go over and help you get it, alright?" Gu Mengmeng did not insist and nodded, "Alright, just break off half of that hive for me, just half is enough, don't take the whole thing." "One, half?" Colin's eyes widened. In the past, when they risked their lives to snatch it, the best result was a palm-sized piece. That time, there were 2 males who could never return to Saint Nazaire. 2/3 at most, no more. If you take it all, they won't come back to build their nest next year. That won't do, understand? Gu Mengmeng did not know about Colin's worries, she thought that half was too little. Colin clenched his teeth, thinking that even if he was killed by the yellow needle insects, he would never disappoint Gu Mengmeng. So he nodded with the determination to die. "Alright, I'll definitely get it back for you. Wait for me here." Gu Mengmeng did not understand where Colin's tragic and stirring emotions came from. She only saw him instructing Oakley and Bode to bring Gu Mengmeng away immediately if anything happened. Then, he turned into a bear resolutely and sprinted towards the beehive. Have you ever seen a kuroshio that is as tall as a building running on all fours? Why did it feel like the wind was howling and the water was cold, as if it would never return? Gu Mengmeng wanted to stand behind Colin and sing "One Cut Plum." Colin didn't waste any time. He went up and directly dug out more than half of the beehive with his palm. Then, he turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted, "Success! Retreat!" Then, either Oakley or Bode grabbed Gu Mengmeng's collar and dragged her along as they ran. Gu Mengmeng looked at the scenery flying past her rapidly and her heart crumbled. The F***king bees didn't even chase after us, so why are you guys running? Unfortunately, the 3 males didn't even give her a chance to speak. They sprinted all the way back to Saint Nazaire. When Gu Mengmeng could finally land on both her feet, she felt as if she had sat on a roller coaster 8 times. Her head was spinning and she just wanted to vomit. However, just as Gu Mengmeng was about to find a tree root to support herself and vomit, a deafening cheer rang out behind her. Before she could react to what had happened, she was lifted by all 4 limbs and thrown high up into the sky by a group of males. F***CK, Roller Coaster 2. Upgraded version 0, Digression, Announcement, this article's 2p will be held from the 25th to the 28th, same rules. In these 3 days, don't pay attention to the articles, don't pay attention to the articles. You must follow the articles daily and then actively leave comments. Those who have flowers will donate flowers and those who have votes will vote. During the PK period, there will be 3 chapters every day. The diligent Gina is working hard to write the draft, then, it will be the same as during 1p. There will be a small question placed under the article every day. The first one to answer correctly will be rewarded with 66xxb. The second one will be rewarded with 56xxb. The third one will be rewarded with 36xxb. The rest of the people who answer correctly will be rewarded with 18xxb. The first one to leave a comment every day will be rewarded with 10xxb. Those who discuss the plot will be rewarded according to the quality of their comments. Our Gu Mengmeng's future will depend on the results of 2P. Also, reader group number 4927799273. Chapter 110. Gu Mengmeng could not stand the torment and screamed in fear, "Leader, save me." Before she could finish her sentence, she had already fallen into an embrace. Her pale face was pressed onto Elvis's chest and she tilted her head to listen. His strong heartbeat calmed Gu Mengmeng's flustered emotions, but it could not suppress her urge to vomit. Unfortunately, there was not much food in her stomach. Gu Mengmeng did not vomit anything after retching twice and collapsed weakly in Elvis's arms. Damn it, she really did not expect that after avoiding the Happy Valley and Disney, she ended up on an exciting roller coaster ride in the ancient wilderness, and it was the kind that did not even have a seatbelt. Gu Mengmeng felt as if she had a serious illness and did not even have the energy to scold anyone. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng and felt a little heartache and helpless. He gently cupped her little face and said, "No one has ever brought back so much yellow gravy, but you only brought Colin, Oakley and Bode, and you did it. Looks like I have to give up the title of the #1 warrior of Saint Nazaire to you." Gu Mengmeng sighed in resignation and said, "They suddenly went crazy and threw me up because of this?" Elvis's gaze swept across the group of males who were still unable to calm down from their excitement and nodded, "Yes, you are the pride of Saint Nazaire." Gu Mengmeng felt really helpless. Why did these people always go crazy because of some random things? It was just some honey, why did they have to go crazy? Was it an illusion? Why did she feel that the way those males looked at her was not right? It felt like they wanted to eat her up. Xiao Meng. Elvis patted Gu Mengmeng's back lightly and said, "I am so happy to be your partner, you are my biggest pride." Partner? Gu Mengmeng really wanted to kill herself. She had just told Leah clearly that she did not have the intention to become partners, but she had forgotten that Elvis still misunderstood. "Sigh, I treated you as my leader but you wanted to sleep with me?" Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng wanted to explain but was interrupted by Leah. He whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear at a volume that only the two of them could hear, "Everyone in the tribe is watching, if you have anything to say, say it after we return." Gu Mengmeng glanced at the male beasts who were still in a state of rage, pursed her lips and nodded. Elvis treated her so well, she could not let Elvis be so embarrassed and be rejected in front of everyone in the tribe. He even had to hear her say that he was just thinking too much. "Let's eat first. I'm starving." Gu Mengmeng smiled brightly and put aside Elvis's matter for now. They could talk about it when they got home at night. However, now that Elvis was obviously not going to be her godmother, then, could she still stay in Elvis's cave? Although Elvis did not know what Gu Mengmeng and Leah were talking about, he could not help but feel uneasy. However, seeing Gu Mengmeng's smiling face, he could not bear to ask and did not dare to ask. He could only follow her wishes and nodded his head. Gu Mengmeng turned around to look for Sandy in the crowd. From afar, she saw a small isolated area beside the crowded stream. There were 2 or 3 figures there. She could not see them clearly as they were too far away, but she could vaguely feel that they could be Sandy. Hence, Gu Mengmeng shouted Sandy's name while rushing towards that direction. With Elvis and Leah guarding the area, Gu Mengmeng passed through the crowd effortlessly. But when she reached the front, she saw that there were 3 females in that small empty space and Sandy was one of them. She was standing at the side wiping her tears, feeling wronged. "Aside from the topic, Ayaya, it's going to be 2 p tomorrow. Let me remind my babies again to clock in on time after 12 noon tomorrow to catch up on the novel." Chapter 111. "Nina. It's you again? Are you itching for a beating?" Gu Mengmeng pulled Sandy behind her and frowned. She rolled up her sleeves and was about to pounce on Nina. Nina had suffered at Gu Mengmeng's hands before, so why would she go against her? Moreover, Gu Mengmeng was not Sandy. Her males were Elvis and Leah. Even if all the males in her family attacked together, they would not be a match for those 2 Buddhas. So Nina's body softened and she pretended to be innocent. "I didn't do anything. Didn't you ask everyone in the tribe to come to the stream for a meal? Can't I come? If you want to eat, just eat. Why did you bully Sandy? Gu Mengmeng did not believe that Sandy would just stand there and cry pitifully if Nina did not bully her. She has you backing her up, how would I dare to bully her? If you don't believe me, ask her, what did I do to her? Nina put on a hypocritical look and pointed at Sandy with her chubby chin. She wanted Gu Mengmeng to ask her. Gu Mengmeng then turned around and held Sandy's little hands gently. She asked gently, Sandy, don't be afraid. I'm here. If she bullied you, just tell me. I'll beat her up for you. She didn't bully me. But she said bad things about you. I was so angry that I argued with her. She then asked her males to beat a dolly until he was seriously injured. Sob sob. Sandy looked at Gu Mengmeng. She was like an aggrieved wife who had found her pillar of support. The more she spoke, the more aggrieved she became. Her tears could not stop flowing. Although Gu Mengmeng did not know who a dolly was, he must be one of her partners to stand up for Sandy. Gu Mengmeng did not even have the energy to retort. She had already beaten up your husband until he was seriously injured. How dare you say she did not bully you? How much more did you want to bully her? But Sandy was already covered in tears. Gu Mengmeng could not bear to say anything more to her. She hugged her gently and patted her back to comfort her. All right, it's all right. I'll ask Daddy Leah to take a look at a dolly later. He will be fine. As for Nina, leave her to me. Don't cry. If her eyes are swollen like peaches, she won't be pretty anymore. Gu Mengmeng sent the sobbing Sandy into the arms of Bode, who was grinding his teeth and was about to charge forward to fight for his life. Gu Mengmeng gave him a look, telling him to comfort Sandy. Then, she turned to look at Leah. She did not say anything, but the word please was clearly written in her clear eyes. Leah originally wanted to stay behind to protect Gu Mengmeng, but seeing Gu Mengmeng's expression, he did not reject her. After all, having Elvis here was enough. I'll go take a look at a dolly, I'll leave this place to you. Leah instructed Elvis before turning around to leave. After everything was settled, Gu Mengmeng rotated her neck left and right as a warm-up. She smiled at Sandy with an evil intention and said, I warned you not to bully Sandy, or else I will beat you up every time I see you. Is your IQ really lacking, or do you not put me in your eyes at all? What are you doing? Nina had seen Gu Mengmeng's little fists before. Although they looked light, it was still very painful to hit. What am I doing? Of course I'm fulfilling my promise. If I don't beat you up today, others will think that I'm untrustworthy. As Gu Mengmeng said, she pounced towards Nina, looking like she wanted to tear her into spicy strips. She was like a wild cat that had gone mad, wild and dangerous. Even the males at the side who did not dare to intervene in a female dispute broke out in cold sweat, muttering to themselves, why didn't this Nina learn her lesson? Why did she have to offend her? She was the Gu Mengmeng who could snatch the yellow gravy from the yellow needleworm and come out unscathed. Aside from the topic, today was the day of PK. The 2 sessions in the morning would be updated as usual, and the 3rd session would be updated at 2 p.m. Starting tomorrow, Chapter 1, 8:30, Chapter 2, 9 o'clock, Chapter 3, 9:30. Those little babies who have not clicked on favorites, remember to do so and be more proactive in leaving comments. Chapter 112. You can't hit me. Nina pulled one of her partners over to block in front of her. Only then did she have the chance to finish her sentence. I'm pregnant and I'm definitely pregnant with a little female. If you hit me now, even if you're the most beautiful woman in the tribe, Elvis will not side with you. Gu Mengmeng's hand froze in mid-air and 10,000 beasts were galloping in her heart. She knew Nina was a pervert, but she didn't expect her to be this pervert. Do you think I'm a fool? You weren't even pregnant when I hit you 2 days ago, and now you're pregnant in the blink of an eye? Gu Mengmeng remembered that she had punched Nina's stomach on the platform of the deity's punishment. If she was pregnant, that punch would definitely be enough to cause a miscarriage. But she was perfectly fine that day, and now she was pregnant after a night's sleep? Do you think you're me, you? You can even get pregnant in a dream? I'm pregnant. Nina's face turned red and she was determined not to admit it. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said sarcastically, other than sh*t, there should be nothing else in your stomach. If you don't believe me, I'll punch you and you'll know the truth. As Gu Mengmeng said, she walked around Nina's partners and grabbed Nina like an eagle catching a chick. Nina dodged left and right pathetically and cried out as she dodged, Gu Mengmeng, why are you so evil? You didn't even let the unborn female in my stomach off. Stop talking nonsense. Don't run if you have the guts. Gu Mengmeng fainted to the left and Nina ran to the right. Gu Mengmeng dodged and caught Nina in the act. Run, run. Gu Mengmeng twisted Nina's wrists behind her back and held both of them with one hand while her other hand grabbed her hair from the back of her head. She pulled Nina's unbearable face in front of her and said word by word, if you don't have enough IQ, just stay here obediently. If you have the guts to bully Sandy, then you have to be able to bear the consequences. After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, she pushed Nina with all her might and gave her a hard kick on her butt as she fell forward. As expected, Nina fell onto the ground in an extremely pathetic manner. Just as Gu Mengmeng was about to pounce forward and hit him again, she was blocked by someone. Gu Mengmeng, if you have any dissatisfaction, you can ask Elvis or Leah to fight with me. Even if you kill me and all of Nina's partners, we have no complaints. But no matter what, Nina is still a precious female of Saint Nazaire. Please don't hurt her anymore. His voice was dry and hoarse, and his eyes were filled with reverence, but he did not shrink back. He only had one arm, but he did not seem to be in a sorry state at all. Instead, he had a kind of unyielding elegance. Gu Mengmeng looked up and indeed, she saw Quentin's familiar face. Towards Quentin, Gu Mengmeng still had some reservations. After all, she almost died in his hands 2 days ago. Gu Mengmeng was never a person who blindly flaunted her strength. She knew that she had no chance of winning against Quentin, so while retreating, she lifted her chin and asked, why? Are you going to play the same trick again? You didn't kill me last time, so you want to kill me again today? Let me tell you, my leader is here, you can't hurt me. Elvis took the opportunity to carry Gu Mengmeng up with one arm. He was clearly only half a head taller than Quentin, but the pressure of a natural king made him look much more muscular than Quentin. That was an absolute crushing pressure. As if looking at an ant with disdain, he looked at Quentin, who was standing in front of him, and said, you're not worthy to fight with me. Call all the males in your family, fight. Aside from the topic, watch my Gu Mengmeng sealing technique. Those who are hit by this technique must immediately click to collect or else there will be no meat to eat. Chapter 113. Elvis's word, battle, shocked the entire place into silence. Everyone seemed to be holding their breaths, afraid that if they breathed too loudly, they would be burned. Elvis. You actually want to kill all the males for her? Nina saw that Gu Mengmeng was being carried in Elvis's arms and could not jump down to hit her for a while. Furthermore, Quentin had also rushed back, so she became much more daring. She directly stood out from behind Quentin and reprimanded Elvis as though he was Chin Shimmy. Back then, in order to prove my fertility to you, I got pregnant with a nest of eaglets the year I came of age. But in order to give birth to your first nest of wolf cubs, I forced Quentin to smash all the eggs in the nest. I don't blame you for always distancing yourself from me all these years. As long as you agree to mate with me now, I promise that when I go into estrus next spring, I will mate with you immediately and give birth to your first nest of wolf cubs. Give up on that, Gu Mengmeng. It's going to be winter soon. If she goes into estrus at this time, she will definitely not have a good ending. Even if she successfully gets pregnant after you mate, with that skinny body of hers, how can she survive the long winter? And how can she give birth to healthy cubs for you? Elvis was expressionless. He grabbed Nina's neck with one hand and lifted her off the ground easily. He squinted his dangerous eyes and said in a voice so cold that it seemed like ice could form, you don't have the right to comment on Xiao Meng. Quentin held on to Elvis's wrist. Even though he was on his last breath after going through 3 days of the deity's punishment ritual, coupled with the fact that the murderous aura and pressure from Elvis was too strong, making it extremely difficult for him to even breathe. But looking at Nina, who was on the verge of death, Quentin still forced himself to take a breath and said with difficulty, "She's a female." Elvis curled his lips in disdain. His pupils shifted slightly and he glanced at Quentin from the corner of his eyes, asking, "So what?" Quentin pursed his lips tightly. He knew, and it was precisely because he knew that he chose to bring Nina to Saint Nazaire back then. The rules of the beast world were completely useless to Elvis. No, to a mated male, nothing was more important than his own female. Even he could kill Gu Mengmeng because of Nina's words, what more Elvis? Quentin felt that his vision was starting to turn yellow, and everything he saw was blurry. This was a sign of fainting. If he did not think of a way, Nina would probably die before he fainted. Quentin used his last consciousness to form a sentence, "Gu Mengmeng will be scared." Although this sentence was short, it effectively dispersed Elvis's murderous aura. He lowered his head to look at Gu Mengmeng, who was nestled in his arms, and recalled how she had cried at the campfire party on the night she came of age. His heart ached and he flung Nina far away. He rubbed the hand that was strangling Nina's neck twice on his beast-skin dress before patting Gu Mengmeng's back gently and comforted her, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Seeing that Nina was saved, Quentin finally couldn't support his weak body anymore. His legs gave way, and he collapsed onto the ground. Even though he might never be able to open his eyes again, the corners of his lips were still curled upwards. As long as she was fine, everything was fine. Out of topic. Question: what race is Sandy? The first one to answer correctly, XXB 66, second 156, third 136, every subsequent 118 XXB. Chapter 114. Gu Mengmeng was indeed frightened. Although she would tear Nina's crotch apart, she never had the intention to kill anyone. Although she relied on Elvis to be a little arrogant, she was just using her connections to intimidate Nina's partners, so that they would not dare to act rashly, so that she would not suffer a huge loss. Gu Mengmeng was still a coward when it came to a life-threatening situation. Looking at the few males blocking in front of Nina, looking like the generous 5 warriors of the Wolf Ivory Mountain, Gu Mengmeng could not bear to do it. Damn it, marrying an unlucky wife is a sure way to suffer for the rest of your life. Elvis, don't be like this. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and rested her head on his neck softly, comforting him. Although Nina and I are not on good terms, I am never the one who suffers a loss. We are all from the same tribe, we see each other all the time, there's no need to fight to the death, alright? Elvis's temper was appeased by Gu Mengmeng's gentle words. By right, there was no need to fight to the death, he just had to stand there and release some beast pressure, and it would be enough to suppress Nina's partners to the point that they could not take care of themselves. But he was angered, and wanted to use the most primitive and barbaric method to tear them apart. Of course, it was because Nina had offended Gu Mengmeng, and Bode had broken the rules by interfering. But on a deeper level, he could not deny that Gu Mengmeng's hesitation and Li's ambiguous "we'll talk about it when we get back" made him feel uneasy and frustrated. Luckily, Gu Mengmeng was still in his arms, hugging him back gently, so that he could deceive himself and others into believing that he was overthinking. Elvis responded to Gu Mengmeng's gaze gently, nodding his head, "We'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng then felt at ease, smiling brightly, "Our new leader is the best." Elvis accepted Gu Mengmeng's praise gladly, then put her down, letting her run back to Sandy's side. From an angle that Gu Mengmeng could not see, Elvis glanced at Nina's partners. That glance was filled with cold killing intent and a strong sense of warning. He did not say a single word, but it made Nina's partners tremble in fear and prostrate themselves before him. They carried Nina, who was paralyzed, on the ground, and ran far away. They hid at the edge of the crowd, not daring to let Nina near Gu Mengmeng. Quentin, on the other hand, was still unconscious on the ground, nobody cared about him. Gu Mengmeng held on to Sandy and wiped her little face, saying, "All right, don't cry. The next time Nina bullies you, hit her back. In any case, you're also from the bear race. Are you still afraid of her?" But she's a perfect female, and I'm just a half-orc female, tisk. If you continue like this, I will be angry. Gu Mengmeng pulled a long face and said, so what if I'm a complete female? So what if she was a half-beast female? Wasn't it just a pair of furry little ears? How beautiful. She wanted it, but she didn't have it yet. You don't even know how much I like your little ears. If they grew on my head, would be so beautiful. Sandy touched her ears. For the first time, she didn't feel inferior when she touched them. Instead, she felt a sense of warmth. You really like them? Of course I like them. These are Sandy's little ears, my favorite part of Sandy. Sandy blushed and nodded her head in reply, I also like Gu Mengmeng the most. The two females smiled until their eyes turned into crescents, while Elvis and Bode stared at each other with a heavy heart. They liked each other the most, then, what should they do? Aside from the topic, today's small question, Gu Mengmeng transmigrated to the beast world because she wanted to get close to a heartthrob senior. May I ask, which club's senior is this heartthrob from? Reward policy, first place 68xxb, second place 58xxb, third place 38xxb, other participation prizes 18xxb. Note, this activity is limited to the little darlings who left comments in Xiaoxiang Academy. Because on other platforms, Giner does not have a backer and cannot set up any rewards. Chapter 115. Gu Mengmeng and Sandy held hands as they walked towards the main fire, with Elvis and Bode following behind them. When they passed by Quentin, Gu Mengmeng paused and turned back to ask Elvis, didn't Nina's partners bring Quentin along with them? He will die if they leave him here. I'll ask someone to send him over. Elvis did not want Gu Mengmeng to care about other males, even if they were already mated. Luckily, Gu Mengmeng did not have a good impression of Quentin, but she still had a kind heart and would not turn a blind eye to him dying in front of her. But, Quentin came down from the platform of the deity's punishment, then what about Barit? Why don't I see him? Gu Mengmeng asked while looking around, but she really did not see Barit at all. Colin stood behind Gu Mengmeng, lowered his head and frowned, replying, Barit did not make it, he died on the platform of the deity's punishment last night. Now. F*******. Upon hearing that, Gu Mengmeng did not have time to think, she retracted her little hand that was holding onto Sandy and pushed her into Bode's arms, saying, you guys eat first, I'll go check on Barit. Gu Mengmeng did not have time to think, she directly jumped onto Elvis's back and shouted, leader, hurry hurry hurry, platform of the deity's punishment. Elvis frowned, he disliked Barit even more now. But even though he was unwilling, he still did not disobey Gu Mengmeng. He transformed into a wolf and brought Gu Mengmeng to the platform of the deity's punishment at lightning speed. Gu Mengmeng climbed up the platform of the deity's punishment with all four limbs, using her finger to check Barit's breathing. Although it was weak, he was not dead yet. Great, he can still be saved if he's not dead. Barit was punished because of Gu Mengmeng. If he died just like that, Gu Mengmeng would not be able to forgive herself no matter what. Raising her head, she saw that the males who were waiting by the stream for their meal had also followed her like a swarm of bees. Gu Mengmeng could not even be bothered about her helplessness. She spotted Colin in the crowd at one glance, so she ordered, Colin, help me get some water. All right. Colin didn't ask why. His and Barit's skills were closely related and they had been rivals and friends for so many years. If they were lucky, they might even become a family in the future because of Gu Mengmeng. Barit died on the platform of the deity's punishment just like that and he was very upset. If Gu Mengmeng really had a way to bring him back to life, not to mention fetching some water, even if she wanted him to slit his throat and let his blood out, he would do it. Originally, the platform of the deity's punishment was close to the stream. It only took Colin less than a minute to break the leaves and fetch water. Gu Mengmeng carried Barit's head and placed it on her thighs as a pillow. Then, she took the leaves from Colin's hands and slowly poured the water into Barit's mouth. But Barit had been unconscious for a long time and even swallowing was a problem. That little bit of water flowed out the way it was poured in. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth, picked up the leaf and poured a mouthful of water into her mouth. Then, she pinched open Barit's mouth and fed him the entire mouthful of water. Barit's Adam's apple rolled, and he finally swallowed his first mouthful of water in 3 days. His body was nourished and gradually showed signs of recovery. Gu Mengmeng persisted and brought the water to her mouth again, preparing to feed him another 2 mouthfuls. However, her wrist was held by Elvis. His eyes were as black as ink and his thin lips were pursed into a straight line. He shook his head. Although it was not a big movement, it was filled with undeniable determination. Aside from the topic, she believed that the little babies might have discovered a problem. The place where they were going to eat was by the stream and the platform of the deity's punishment was also by the stream. Why did Gu Mengmeng need Elvis to send her from the place where they were going to eat to the platform of the deity's punishment? There was only one truth. Chapter 116. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and looked down at Barit from above. He casually took a deer that had just stopped breathing and had yet to be cleaned from the hands of a male. He aimed the blood vessel of the deer at Barit's mouth and let the warm blood flow down Barit's throat, nourishing his body. Barit rolled his eyes and forced his dry eyes open. When he saw that figure in a hazy state, the corners of his lips could not help but curve upwards. Gu Mengmeng, yes, I'm here. Gu Mengmeng wanted to struggle out of Elvis's arms, but Elvis's arms did not budge at all, like they were made of steel, not letting her struggle at all. Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to give up struggling. She stared at Barit helplessly and said, "Why are you so silly? I told you to kneel for 3 days and 3 nights, and you're really going to kneel? This stubborn fellow, if he loses his life, he'll lose everything. As long as you are safe, my life is nothing." With every word Barit said, his throat felt as if it was being cut by a knife. However, this kind of pain made him feel exceptionally blissful. He thanked the beast deity for taking pity on him and fulfilling his last wish. He would use the rest of his life to protect Gu Mengmeng. Only then would he have no regrets when he had to return to the arms of the beast deity. Fool. Gu Mengmeng's eyes were a little sore. He had actually done so much for someone he had only known for 2 to 3 days. Since you're not dead, go back and rest. Elvis did not like the way Gu Mengmeng was looking at Barit, and even more so, he did not like the way she was so concerned about him. Hence, he carried Gu Mengmeng and jumped down from the platform of the deity's punishment without any explanation, walking back in big strides. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not give up and was still stretching her neck to look back, he whispered into her ear, "The recovery ability of males is very strong. Since he's awake, he won't die. Sandy is waiting for you. If you don't go back, she'll cry again." "Oh, yes, Sandy is still waiting for me." Gu Mengmeng retracted her gaze from the platform of the deity's punishment and turned to look forward. She rubbed her tummy and said, "Even I feel hungry. Sandy must be famished too. Hurry up, let's go back and eat." Elvis sighed silently. Was his decision wise? Why did it feel like there was a wolf at the front door and a tiger at the back door? Between Barit and Sandy, who should he guard against first? Even though he was thinking about it, Elvis did not slow down his pace. After all, Gu Mengmeng was also hungry. When they returned to the place where they were supposed to roast the meat, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to shake her head and leave. Do you know what it means to be covered in corpses and to have blood flow like a river? If he glanced to the left, he would see a tiger's paw. If he glanced to the right, he would see a wolf's head. F***ck me. Beast God, aren't you going to do something about your people being so cruel? What happened? Elvis's gaze circled around Gu Mengmeng, so he naturally did not miss out on her aggrieved expression. Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly and wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. The ground was filled with blood, she did not want to go down. Gu Mengmeng, you're back. Sandy welcomed her from afar and smiled sweetly at her. Gu Mengmeng looked at Bode, who was standing behind Sandy, and said bluntly, "The ground is so dirty and you're letting Sandy run around like that?" Bode was infuriated by her scolding. He wanted to retort but did not dare to do so due to Elvis's pressure and Sandy's protection, aside from the topic. Chapter 117. Bode carried Sandy up according to Gu Mengmeng's instructions and stood behind Elvis from the side. Gu Mengmeng then nodded her head in satisfaction, then pointed to a relatively clean place by the stream and said, "Leader, let's go there." "All right." Any place with Gu Mengmeng was a good place. Elvis brought Gu Mengmeng to the stream and Bode carried Sandy over. Once the two females landed on the ground, they held hands and started to converse like best friends. Elvis and Bode could not interrupt at all and could only sigh silently, waiting for when these two fellows would remember them. Growl growl, Sandy's stomach growled and Gu Mengmeng then remembered that they had not eaten yet. She smiled and said, "Leader, help me start a fire here. Bode, bring over 2 fishes that Elvis and Leah caught just now." Bode clenched his teeth but did not dare to bare his teeth at Gu Mengmeng. Sullenly, he followed Gu Mengmeng's instructions. Elvis started a fire a few times and could be said to be very familiar with it now. Not long later, a small, warm fire was started. Gu Mengmeng took over the big fish that Bode brought over and used a thin stone she picked up from the river to scrape off the fish's scales. She borrowed Elvis's sharp claws to cut open the fish's stomach and took out all the internal organs before throwing them away. Then, she washed the fish in the stream and used the branches that Elvis had prepared earlier to skewer the fish using the cross-fixation method and roast it slowly over the fire. The aroma of the fish became stronger as time went by. Sandy, who had a look of disdain, could not help but swallow her saliva. She had already asked Gu Mengmeng 8 times, "Can we eat now?" Gu Mengmeng pretended to be mysterious and said, "Almost done, but we still lack a secret weapon." "What is it?" Sandy could not help but become nervous and lowered her voice. The way the two of them spoke was like an underground gang meeting. However, to males with exceptional hearing, they really did not need to do so because they could still hear clearly. Gu Mengmeng hooked her finger and asked Sandy to come closer. Sandy naturally did as she was told. Gu Mengmeng whispered into Sandy's ear, "Yellow gravy." Eh. Sandy had thought that Gu Mengmeng wanted the yellow gravy to roast the rabbits. Although Gu Mengmeng had brought back a lot of yellow gravy, no one managed to hunt any rabbits today and was still feeling regretful. Who would have thought that this water shuttle could also be roasted with yellow gravy? Too unexpected, too pleasantly surprised. Bode, hurry, bring the yellow sauce that Gu Mengmeng brought back, bring all of it over. Finally, Bode was so touched that he was about to cry. After a whole day, he finally got an order. It was from Sandy. They had been ordered around by Gu Mengmeng for an entire day and now they could finally be ordered around by their own females. You guys don't understand this kind of happiness. Bode had not walked far when Colin walked over with all the yellow gravy he had gotten today and all the yellow gravy that the males in the tribe had contributed to coax Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "I don't need so much. Share it with everyone. Everyone here will have a share. Let's all have a taste." "How can we do that? This precious yellow gravy is not even enough for the females. How are the males going to eat it?" Colin looked at the yellow gravy in his hands and felt his heart ache. Although he had used Gu Mengmeng's method and obtained it successfully this time, it was hard to guarantee that it would be the same next time. If it was given to the males, what would Gu Mengmeng eat? Aside from the topic, come, today's small question, what is the prototype of Daddy Leah? Reward policy, first place, 68xxb second place, 58xxb third place, 38xxb other participation prizes, 18xxb note. Chapter 118. The sexism in the beast world was really deeply rooted. Looking at the males standing behind Colin nodding their heads in agreement, Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Dusting off her hands and standing up, Gu Mengmeng nodded her head and said, "Although the yellow gravy is precious, it's not something rare. As long as you guys can help me find the nest of the yellow needle insects, I can guarantee an unlimited supply of yellow gravy from Saint Nazir. Just one thing, it doesn't matter how much you eat, but you can't waste it." If it was in the past, Gu Mengmeng's words would only be treated as a willful little female spouting nonsense. They would only cooperate and express their admiration, then even if it meant risking their lives, they would still help her fulfill her promise. But now, the situation seemed to be reversed. This skinny and tiny female seemed to be emitting an irresistible power. Her words were convincing and there was no room for doubt. Even males could eat the yellow gravy? Such a precious thing, unlimited supply? Everyone looked at Gu Mengmeng, their hearts surging. They had to become stronger. How could they let a little female shoulder the heavy burden of making the entire Saint Nazaire prosperous? She was so weak, she should be protected and taken care of. Gu Mengmeng obviously did not know that her words seemed to have given the males of Saint Nazaire a stimulant, and it was the kind that was effective all year round. From this day onwards, the males of Saint Nazaire trained themselves even harder. Whether it was hunting or guarding the territory, they had an unprecedented drive. They wanted to be strong enough to protect Gu Mengmeng. Of course, this was a story to be told later, let's not talk about it for now. Although Colin's heart ached for the yellow gravy, he would definitely follow Gu Mengmeng's instructions. However, the males carefully wrapped the yellow gravy in leaves and kept it, thinking that if there was a time when the female did not have enough to eat, they would take out their own for the female to eat. Gu Mengmeng did not force him. It was hard to remove such deep-rooted beliefs. Moreover, it was not a bad thing to take good care of a lady. Why must she correct him? Gu Mengmeng asked for a wolf tail that the male intended to throw away. After washing it clean with the stream water, she dipped it in honey and brushed it evenly on the surface of the roasted fish. Then, she slowly flipped the fish until the honey was roasted to a golden color and the air was filled with a charred sweet smell. Gu Mengmeng then took the roasted fish down from the rack and tasted a small piece. As expected, the roasted fish with honey was much more delicious than the roasted rabbit which had no taste at all. Gu Mengmeng was also not a stingy person. She split the fish into two, giving one half to Sandy and the other to Elvis. Sandy had been craving for it for a long time and as expected, she scalded her tongue with one bite. She stuck out her pink tongue pitifully and sucked in air, looking so adorable that Gu Mengmeng could not stop giggling. She took the roasted fish and passed it to Bode. She instructed him to blow on it and let Sandy eat it when it was warm. Then, she folded a leaf into a cone shape and scooped a leaf of water for Sandy to drink to ease her thirst. Now that Sandy had something to eat, she could not be bothered to talk to Gu Mengmeng anymore. She pounced into Bode's arms and stared at the roasted fish in Bode's hands. Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered to criticize Sandy for forgetting her friends. She returned to Elvis's side and sat down obediently, preparing to roast another fish for herself. But before her little hands could touch the second fish, Elvis handed over a small piece of fish meat from the side. I blew on it, it's warm. Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng, weak? Needs to be taken care of? Who are you talking about? The author, I'm talking about you. Gu Mengmeng grabbed the author's collar. I'm the one who knocked Nina down with one punch. You're saying I'm weak? The author shrugged helplessly. They eat tigers, cheetahs and any wild beasts that can eat you. In the food chain, they are at least 2 levels higher than you. You are not weak? Gu Mengmeng, F***K, what the F***K? Chapter 119. Gu Mengmeng felt a warmth in her heart. She opened her mouth with a smile and swallowed the fish that Elvis sent to her mouth. The temperature was just right and the fish bones had already been picked out. Leader was actually such a meticulous person. Elvis felt a warmth in his heart when he saw Gu Mengmeng eating contentedly. Luckily, she was willing to give him a chance to take care of her. Maybe he was just overthinking when he said, we. Gu Mengmeng allowed Elvis to feed her while she swiftly processed the second fish. But before she could scrape off all the scales, Sandy could not wait any longer. A pair of chubby little hands were placed on Gu Mengmeng's shoulders. She stuck her head out and asked, Gu Mengmeng, are you done? I still want to eat more. This water shuttle is actually so delicious, it's not done yet. Wait a while, I will let you eat all of it after I'm done. Gu Mengmeng treated Sandy like a parent who spoiled her child without any principles. Can you teach Bode? Let him learn how to do it from you. Once he learns it, let him roast it for us. Although Sandy was greedy, her heart ached for Gu Mengmeng's little hands. They must be cold after soaking in the water for such a long time. And even though this water shuttle became extremely delicious after being roasted by Gu Mengmeng's little hands, it still smelled terrible when processed. Just think about how other females were treated like their ancestors when they were in heat. But Gu Mengmeng, the first beauty of Saint Nazaire, was actually squatting by the stream to roast fish, and for her to eat. Sandy felt more touched the more she thought about it. She pounced onto Gu Mengmeng and hugged her tightly. Her furry little ears twitched continuously. She said with a naive expression, Gu Mengmeng, if only you were a male. Then, I would definitely mate with you and never be separated from you for the rest of my life. Gu Mengmeng used her finger that was soaked in water to touch Sandy's little nose. She smiled and said, yeah, if I were a male, I would definitely marry you. Wife? Sandy tilted her head and looked at Gu Mengmeng. What's that? It means partner. We call our female partner, wife, over there. Gu Mengmeng replied while brushing honey on the fish. You guys are so funny. The female partner is called wife, and the male partner is called father. Sandy blinked her big eyes and smiled innocently. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She sneaked a glance at Elvis, who looked unhappy, and hurriedly explained, Daddy means father, not male partner. Why is Leah your father? Sandy was even more confused. Speechless, Gu Mengmeng choked and asked the heavens, Come, this fish is ready. You eat it. Gu Mengmeng stuffed the freshly roasted fish into Sandy's mouth without any explanation, hoping to use food to shut this little ancestor's mouth. No, Board said he'd seen you do it twice and learned. You eat this one first, I'll wait for Bode to roast it. Sandy said as she pushed the fish back to Gu Mengmeng. She then imitated Gu Mengmeng and said to Elvis, Take good care of Gu Mengmeng and blow on it to warm it before feeding it to her. Otherwise, it will be very painful if she gets scalded. Perhaps, this was the first time someone spoke to Elvis like this. But Elvis did not feel angry. Instead, for the first time, he felt that Sandy, this noisy and crybaby, was rather cute. On the other hand, Sandy, who only dared to be a little presumptuous because Gu Mengmeng was around, felt her legs turn to jelly after she finished speaking. She turned around and ran back to Board's side to wait for the fish. Wife means female partner. Then, is the male partner called leader? Elvis's voice was as light as the spring breeze, but in Gu Mengmeng's ears, it sounded like thunder on the ground. Damn! How could she explain? Aside from the topic, replying to QQ reading, enough 2 scarves, question yes, Gu Mengmeng's weight was 60 kilograms. The reference was the shameless author himself. I was 172 kilograms tall and 51 kilograms at my slimmest. My friends thought I was a drug addict when they saw me, so they dragged me along to preach the correct values of life. After that, I gained some weight and my weight was around 55 kilograms to 58 kilograms. Only then did I look more normal and my complexion became better. Chapter 120. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng's expression and already knew the answer. He could not hide his disappointment, but he could not bear to scold her, so he just pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms and pressed his chin against her little head, asking, then, what do you call your male partner over there? Gu Mengmeng shrunk into Elvis's arms like an ostrich and answered guiltily, hubby. Good girl. Elvis's lips curled into a sly smile. Say that he was lying to himself, say that he was burying his head in the sand, but at the end of the day, he had heard that title from her mouth with his own ears, hadn't he? Gu Mengmeng blushed, damn, Leader's tricks were as deep as the ocean. She was tricked by Elvis once again? Didn't they all say that foxes were the cunning ones? Why was it that Leah did not trick her, but Elvis was the one who made her speechless and even felt a little excited? Just as Gu Mengmeng's little heart was beating wildly, she heard Sandy calling out her name in a wrong tone. Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng peeked her head out from Elvis's arms to look at Sandy, only to see her looking at her with a wronged expression, looking extremely lovable. Gu Mengmeng took the opportunity to jump out from Elvis's arms and walk to Sandy, holding her little hand and asking, "What's wrong? Who made our adorable Sandy unhappy?" Sandy looked as if she wanted to cry but was unable to do so, handing the fish in her hands to Gu Mengmeng. "Try it, Bode made it." Gu Mengmeng looked at the fish meat. The color was even and the heat was on point. The way it was prepared was obviously the same as hers. Even the position of the cross was fixed according to her grilled fish. It also smelled like the burnt smell of honey, and there was even some crystal clear honey hanging on the surface. It was obvious that another layer was applied after grilling. By right, this should have been specially made according to Sandy's preferences, but why did Sandy look like she was not satisfied? Gu Mengmeng tore off a small piece of meat and placed it in her mouth to have a taste. Once it entered her mouth, her brows furrowed tightly together. Pfft. See, Gu Mengmeng also finds it disgusting. Sandy was extremely furious. She had used up all the yellow gravy that Gu Mengmeng had given her just for this roasting water shuttle, but now... Sob sob sob, I don't have any more yellow gravy. Am I going to be hungry today? Boo-hoo. Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry as she coaxed Sandy, the little foodie. She patted her back and comforted her. "It's all right, it's just yellow gravy. I still have a lot with me. If it's not enough, I'll go look for more. With me around, how can I let my adorable Sandy starve?" "Really?" Sandy looked up with a wronged expression and did not let go of Gu Mengmeng's waist. When she saw Gu Mengmeng nodding her head seriously, her tears turned into a smile. "I knew that Gu Mengmeng treats me the best. I like you the most. Bode was so frustrated that he couldn't even lift his head. He had clearly followed Sandy's instructions, so why did she not like the things he made? They looked exactly the same. Gu Mengmeng didn't expose him. She just passed the fish Bode roasted to him and said, "Food cannot be wasted, you should eat it." Bode understood that Gu Mengmeng wanted him to taste the problem himself, so he didn't refuse and took a bite of the fish. The moment the meat entered his mouth, Bode's brows furrowed together. "You clearly added a lot of yellow gravy, but why is it bitter?" Aside from the topic, today is the last day of the PK. Those who haven't clicked on the collection button, please click on it. All the comments, please make use of the last moments of the morning to sprint today's question. Chapter 121. Gu Mengmeng smiled slyly. "Eat the one you roasted first and I will tell you." Males in the beast world were not as delicate as females. What kind of tough bones had they not eaten before? This little bit of bitterness was nothing to Bode. In order to let Sandy eat delicious delicacies in the future, Bode sent the entire fish into his mouth without even blinking. He chewed a few times and swallowed it. Then, he looked at Sandy with a pair of bright and piercing eyes, afraid to miss a single word. Gu Mengmeng gave her roasted fish to Sandy, then took a fresh one from the ground and let Bode cut open its stomach. She then pointed at one of the innards and said, "Do you see this? This is called the gall bladder. If you accidentally cut it open when you cut it open, then the taste of this fish will be the same as the one you just ate." Bode's eyes almost looked into the fish's stomach, even though the fishy smell made him choke. But for Sandy, he could endure anything. The other males looked at Gu Mengmeng and the rest eating the fish, then looked at the jackals, wolves, tigers and leopards in their hands. After hesitating for a while, no one dared to ask Gu Mengmeng how to eat these things under the pressure of Elvis. Thinking about how Gu Mengmeng said not to waste food, the males skinned their prey and ate it raw according to their usual habits. They looked at Gu Mengmeng while eating. It tasted better than usual even without any processing. But this made Gu Mengmeng pitiful. A bunch of beasts looked at her with green eyes while chewing on the tiger's head and wolf's claws. Their blood-red tongues licked their lips from time to time, scaring Gu Mengmeng so much that she almost ran away. Gu Mengmeng, who was shivering, leaned into Sandy's arms and buried her head into Sandy's shoulder to seek comfort. "I will never ask everyone to gather for a meal again. Their table manners are too scary." Sandy shook her head and said, "I will never invite everyone for a meal again. Sandy looked around while eating the roasted fish, saying emotionlessly, "Isn't this how males eat? The males at my place don't eat like this." Gu Mengmeng wanted to cry but had no tears. "Gu Mengmeng, tell me about your place." Sandy was extremely curious about Gu Mengmeng's previous tribe, so she touched the honey on her mouth and looked at Gu Mengmeng seriously as she requested. "Yeah, sure." Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. She was a girl and there were only two topics that were easiest to talk about, love and shopping. Looking around, he realized that there wasn't even a small town store. Shopping was out of the question. There was definitely no common topic, so he decided to talk about love. So Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and started to tell Sandy about Korean dramas. Of course, she automatically replaced the male and female protagonists in the story with male and female, and the story she told originated from descendants of the sun. Gu Mengmeng held Sandy's little hand and looked into her eyes with deep affection. She asked in a tender voice, "Regarding kissing you without permission, should I confess or apologize?" Sandy clasped her hands in front of her chest and took a deep breath. She shrugged her round little shoulders and nodded like a chick pecking rice. She wanted to express something, but she realized that her vocabulary was limited by her imagination. This is too much. How can you kiss a female without permission? Moreover, he actually left the female alone at the rendezvous? This kind of male is too useless. Before Sandy could arrange a word to express the emotions in her heart, the meal had already been finished. The males who had transformed into humans had already gathered in a circle, each of them sitting around Gu Mengmeng to listen to her story, as if they were watching old movies in the old countryside. Aside from the topic. Chapter 122. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched as she laughed dryly. The biggest generation gap in the world was not from the present to the past, nor was it the fact that you did not know that I loved you when I was right in front of you. It was the gender gap. It was said that the difference between a man's chromosome and a woman's was even bigger than the difference between a man and a gorilla. In the past, Gu Mengmeng thought that it was nonsense, but now, she believed it. Sandy had obviously become Yu Sijin's fangirl through the passage of time, so she protested, "What do you know, the tribe is in danger, do you still want to continue the date and not protect the tribe?" The male who raised the question shrunk his neck, obviously not willing to make Sandy unhappy, so he hurriedly explained, "What I mean is, that male left the female alone at the dating spot and ran back to protect the tribe. What if the female is in danger? When there is no one around to protect her, how can he leave the female alone outside? Especially when the tribe is under attack." Before this male finished his sentence, another male followed up, "Yeah, if Saint Nazir is under attack, we will also fight to the death and be willing to sacrifice our lives to protect the tribe. But the aim of protecting the tribe is to not let the females be harmed, so every time a male has a female in his family, he will leave at least half of the males to protect his own female. For females like Sandy who only have 6 males, the tribe will send more powerful males to join in the protection ranks. Leaving the female alone in a dangerous environment, this male really should not have done it." Hearing that, Sandy was also a little confused. She turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "Then why did you see Jean leave Kong Moi Ian alone? Could it be to protect the other females in the tribe?" Gu Mengmeng smiled and shook her head, making up a version that did not belong to descendants of the sun. That battle was too cruel, he did not even know if he could return alive. If he brought Kong Moi Ian along, wouldn't it be equivalent to bringing her into danger too? Instead of dying together, wouldn't it be better to let one of them escape and survive? This question caused the entire place to sink into silence. This seemed to be a question that they had never thought of before because the rules in the beast world were very simple. Attack or defend, win or lose. There was only life and death, success or failure. There was no option to send the females away first. But if they really met an opponent with a great disparity in strength, and even Elvis and Leah could not withstand a single blow from the enemy, then they could send the tribe's females away first, and come back to fight with their lives on the line, buying more time for them to escape. As long as they could escape to any tribe, they would be well taken care of. That way. Elvis, however, felt a tug in his heart. He pulled Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and said in a voice dripping with blood, "The reason why you're still not announcing your first partner is because you're waiting for him to come back, right?" Huh? Gu Mengmeng's spine stiffened, completely unable to keep up with Elvis's pace. "Wait for, who? Your original tribe met with a strong enemy. In order to protect you, he sent you away first and let you escape alone, while he went back to delay the enemy to buy time for you. That's why you appeared in that pond alone and was met by me, right?" Elvis did not even dare to look at Gu Mengmeng's eyes. His heart was in so much pain from being torn apart. It had nothing to do with jealousy, nothing to do with family status. It was just that his heart ached for her to encounter such cruelty in her original tribe. Aside from the topic, this is the last chapter of the PK period. The PK will end this afternoon. Once the results are out, I will immediately share the results with everyone through the author's post. No matter what, thank you all for your support along the way, helping me to comment and come up with questions for the past few days. It's been hard on everyone. Chapter 123. This is what you wanted to tell me just now, right? Elvis pressed Gu Mengmeng against his chest and hugged her tightly. He felt that this was the only way to soothe the burning pain in his chest. "It's all right. From today onwards, I will protect you and take care of you. I will not let you suffer any harm, even if I have to sacrifice my life. If one day he comes, I can give up the position of first partner to him." Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She did not expect that one day, she and Yu Sijin would form a couple. This was simply a beautiful bubbling joke. No, leader, you've misunderstood. This is someone else's story. I've already said that the female lead is called Kang Moi Ian, not Gu Mengmeng. Your understanding really makes one's heart ache. These few days, you looked like you had a lot on your mind. It must be because of this. Elvis's words were not a question, but a statement. In his heart, he had already confirmed that Gu Mengmeng was the female lead in the story she told. Especially when he thought of how she cried during her coming-of-age ceremony, he was even more certain that she cried then because the male called Yu Sijin did not come. If she really hoped that Yu Sijin would guard the tower for her, then the position of first partner would naturally not belong to him, Elvis. No wonder she had always been vague and refused to publicly acknowledge him as the first partner. So, this position was left for that person. The more he thought about it, the more Elvis's heart ached. He hated himself for not meeting her earlier. Why did he let that Yu Sijin snatch it before him? I swear, I'm really not Kang Moi Ian. Although I know Yu Sijin, he doesn't know me at all. This is really just a story. If I'm lying, let the beast deity bring me away. Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence in one breath, then took a deep breath and said, "And leader, if you don't let go, my waist will be broken by you." Elvis then realized the strength in his hand and hurriedly let go of Gu Mengmeng. He frowned and said, "Let me see, are you hurt?" Gu Mengmeng's breathing was finally smooth. She held on to Elvis's arm and bent over to catch her breath for a while before saying, "I'm fine, luckily you let go in time." Elvis's brows formed a dead knot. Now that he knew that there was a strong opponent, he had to lose his sense of propriety and fear an enemy that had yet to appear. This was really not Elvis's style, but as it concerned Gu Mengmeng, he could not suppress the uncertainty in his heart. "It's okay, I was just joking. Look, I'm fine." Gu Mengmeng noticed his low spirits and patted his shoulders. "Leader, Yu Sijin really has nothing to do with me. Even if I know him, he has already mated with Kang Moi Ian. There is a mountain range in the Himalayas between us. That is a gap that cannot be crossed. It is impossible for us to have any interaction in this lifetime, so don't worry about it." "All right." However, Elvis's brows did not relax because of Gu Mengmeng's words. Instead, his ruthless aura lingered in the air. Even someone like Gu Mengmeng, who was slow to react, could feel a strong murderous intent. "Is it because he chose Kang Moi Ian and abandoned you that you wandered alone in the dangerous forest?" Elvis only felt his heart tremble. If he had not found her in time, how long would she have to soak in that pool? What if she met a wild beast? What if she met a stray orc? The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. Elvis clenched his fists tightly and said, "Where is he? I will kill him to avenge you." Aside from the topic, good news, when 2P was over. Next, it was time for the daily routine of stable updates and recommendations. Then, little babies who want to eat meat, please join the group. 4927799273 Clear Soup Novel Lovers, little pure babies who want a 1v1, please don't join. The taste in the group is a little heavy and may not suit you. Chapter 124. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded and only understood what was going on after a long while. She immediately rolled on the ground and burst into laughter, so much so that a pig squealed. Elvis was a little dazed by her laughter, but his anger gradually dissipated with her laughter. Leah rushed back after treating Adali's wound but was stopped by Nina's partner on the way back to treat the wound on Nina's neck in Quentin. Leah could tell that Nina's injury was caused by Elvis at first glance. In the past, no matter how angry he was, he had never really hurt a female. This time, he was forced to the point that he could not hold it in anymore. Nina must have provoked Gu Mengmeng. Thinking about this, Leah secretly added some yellow root into the medicine that he applied on Nina. Seeing Nina crying out from the spiciness, Leah just smiled like a deity and thought to himself, "Serves you right for provoking my Gu Mengmeng." But after he finished, Leah was stunned again. He actually intervened in the affairs between females? And in such a childish way? Gu Mengmeng's influence was really not to be underestimated. Thinking about this, Leah wanted to return to Gu Mengmeng's side even more. Even if they had not mated yet, his instincts told him that being by her side was his home. When he rushed back, he saw Gu Mengmeng rolling on the ground while laughing so hard that she could not straighten her back. He did not even know what she was laughing about, but the corners of his lips curled up on his own accord and his gaze turned soft like a puddle of water. Leah walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and carried her up from the ground. He patted the dirt off her while saying, "What made you laugh like this? Tell me about it too." "Daddy Leah." Gu Mengmeng's cheeks were sore from laughing so much that she barely stopped her exaggerated laughter when she saw Leah. She held on to Lee's shoulders and said while shaking her shoulders to hold back her laughter, "Leader thinks that I have an affair with you, Jean, and is going to silence me now." Leah raised his brows and savored this name that he had never heard before. "You Jean?" "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng still could not hold it in. The more she wanted to stop laughing, the more she wanted to laugh. She turned into vibrating mode in Lee's arms. Leah looked at Elvis and said gently, "Together?" "Pfft." Finally, Gu Mengmeng burst out in laughter once again. The entire sky above Saint Nazaire reverberated with her laughter, ha 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 ha. When Gu Mengmeng was finally done laughing, she forcefully waved her hands and said, "What do I have to say to make you believe that this is really just a story? It has nothing to do with me." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before nodding. "As long as you say it, we will believe you." No matter how suspicious they were, even if Jean appeared before their eyes, as long as Gu Mengmeng said no, they would believe it. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and sighed. It was obvious that the two of them did not believe her but were stubborn. But it couldn't be helped. You could never wake someone who was pretending to be asleep, could you? As long as you believe me, as long as you believe me. Gu Mengmeng thought that time would prove everything. Since she could not explain to them what a television series was, she could only let time dilute everything. After a while, when the legendary Jean did not appear, they would naturally forget about it. Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Lee's arms and prepared to roast another fish for Leah to eat. But the moment she pulled Lee's hand, she smelled a familiar scent. Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah with her innocent and clear doe-like eyes. She raised his wrist and asked, "Daddy Leah, hurry, tell me, what did you touch just now?" Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Shaoxiang Academy, obedient 54264 Lei, for sending flowers during the PK period in reply to QQ reading, so we all understand our own fate. Baby, I saw your answers and they were all correct. This proves that you are a little baby who reads novels seriously. But I don't have a backend at QQ Reading, so I can't set up a reward. I'll give you a love hug as compensation in reply to QQ Reading. Gueku. Lee's original form is a snow fox and has nothing to do with unicorns. Chapter 125. Leah brought his hand to the tip of his nose in confusion and sniffed. It was the faint smell of yellow roots, left behind when he was pranking Nina. His deep gaze was filled with uneasiness. Could it be that Gu Mengmeng found out that he had interfered in the affairs between females? Lee's expression did not change, but he started to feel uneasy inside. He said calmly, "Yellow roots. Where is it? Is there more? Give me some. Please." Gu Mengmeng held onto Lee's forearm tightly, and with every short sentence, she got closer to Leah. By the time she finished her last word, her entire body was almost stuck to the tip of Lee's nose. Leah was a little overwhelmed by Gu Mengmeng's sudden enthusiasm. That yellow roots was not a rare item. Why was she so anxious about it? But since she liked it, why couldn't he dig out the back mountain of Saint Nazaire? "Yes, I have as much as you want." Leah smiled gently and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head. Then, he consciously transformed his white and fluffy big tail and swayed it in front of Gu Mengmeng. Then, he accidentally let Gu Mengmeng pounce on him, and that big tail was hugged by Gu Mengmeng half willingly as she stroked it back and forth. Leah did not mind that Gu Mengmeng's hands were stained with the fishy smell. He just watched her play with indulgence and pampering while building a new fire by the stream with Elvis. Then, Elvis handled the raw fish while explaining Gu Mengmeng's method to Leah. Leah referred to Bode's diligent roasting process at the side, and combined with Elvis's description, he tried to roast a fish. He tore a small piece of fish meat and sent it into his mouth. Yeah, there was no strange taste, so it could be given to Gu Mengmeng. "Gu Mengmeng, come, open your mouth." Leah blew a small piece of meat without the fish bones until it was warm and sent it to Gu Mengmeng's mouth, who was having a great time playing with a tail. Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth obediently. Once the fish meat entered her mouth, Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up and her innocent big eyes were filled with surprise. She looked at Leah and praised, "Daddy Leah, you're really a master chef. This fish is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. The combination of the honey and the fish is just right. It's the best in the world." If not for the fact that she was hugging Big Tail and had no time, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to give Leah 10086 likes. Leah especially enjoyed Gu Mengmeng's exaggerated praise. No matter how many times he heard it, he would always enjoy it. So, he handed the roasted fish to Elvis and let him feed Gu Mengmeng, while he turned around to deal with the second fish. His Mengmeng was really too skinny. Since it was what she liked to eat, he would prepare more for her. She had to admit that Lee's hands were really fast. In the time it took for Gu Mengmeng to eat half a fish, he had already roasted 7 to 8 fish. Gu Mengmeng was in awe of Leah, who was looking at 7 to 8 barbecue grills at the same time. Was he a newbie who had just come into contact with fire? He must be a new graduate from New Oriental. But when Leah placed the 7 to 8 large fishes in front of her, indicating for her to eat, Gu Mengmeng was petrified. "Daddy Leah, I'm full." Leah frowned and pursed his thin lips, asking, "You ate so little?" Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that her appetite was only so big. She had already eaten half a fish, which was at least 1.5 catties. Firstly, she was very hungry today. Secondly, Lee's culinary skills were really not bad. Moreover, the original fish tasted fresh and delicious. If it was any other time, she would not be able to swallow so much. Aside from the topic, thank you baby, Yu Xingmeng, for the diamond. Congratulations to baby for becoming the first Tong Sheng in this novel after the Wenwen 2p. It was time to wait for the recommendation process. During this period, Jean would ensure a stable daily update, until all the recommendations were completed. The editor originally said that it could be published now, but because Jean had promised her babies that she would let Elvis take up the position before it was published, so that everyone could eat more meat. So after discussing with the editor, the result was an inverted V of 300,000 words for this novel. So here comes the problem. Babies, if you have the time, please don't keep reading. Because when I publish it, the parts you are reading now will all be paid content. Parts after 100,000 words are all VIP chapters. Chapter 126. Leah did not force Gu Mengmeng and just said, "Then I'll bring these back and you can eat them later when you're hungry." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, "No, no, no, the fish won't taste good when it's cold. You and Elvis have been taking care of me all this while and you guys haven't eaten yet, you too should eat it." Elvis and Leah looked at the fish and then at Gu Mengmeng, thinking that there were so many of these in the water that even if everyone in Saint Nazaire ate them together, they would not be able to finish them in 3 to 5 years. Although the yellow gravy was rare, Gu Mengmeng seemed to have a way to obtain it without bloodshed. Since Bode and Colin could help Gu Mengmeng get so much yellow gravy, it was even easier for the two of them. Since the ingredients were not rare, they did not reject it. The two of them ate the few big fish and exchanged their thoughts while eating, discussing how to improve next time. Gu Mengmeng's tummy was already round, so she clapped her hands and went to play with Sandy. It was not difficult to find Sandy among the crowd. After all, other than Nina, who was thrown out by Elvis, there were only Gu Mengmeng, Nina, and that unknown female left in Saint Nazaire. Disregarding the unfamiliar female, Sandy had always been on good terms with Gu Mengmeng, and Bode also wanted Gu Mengmeng to teach him how to roast fish, so their fire pit was not far from Gu Mengmeng. When Gu Mengmeng came to Sandy's side, she saw a sullen Sandy and a badly battered Bode. One was pouting unhappily, while the other was circling around the fire with a face full of soot and soot. "What's wrong?" Gu Mengmeng sat beside Sandy and asked. Sandy twitched her lips and said, "I'm hungry." Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Bode, who had been busy all this while, and asked, "How long has he been like this?" Sandy replied, "He has been like this since just now, but not a single water shuttle can be eaten." Gu Mengmeng, "I'm so hungry. Can you roast another one for me?" "Just one." Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and was about to agree when Leah carried her up and said, "Gu Mengmeng is also a female and needs to be taken care of just like you. If you're not satisfied with Bode's skills, you might as well give other males a chance." Once Leah finished speaking, the surrounding males hurriedly offered their treasures. "Sandy, why don't you try what I roasted?" Leah did not say anything more and just carried Gu Mengmeng towards Elvis's cave. After walking for a certain distance, he then said, "If Sandy becomes more and more reliant on you, it will not be a good thing for her." "Why?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. "Isn't it just a fish? It's not a big deal if I roast it for her. I can't let her starve. After all, she's a precious female. The way you make food is very special. To learn it requires time and talent. Bode and the rest obviously don't have this talent. But if Sandy becomes picky because of your food, and Bode and the rest can't make food as delicious as you, do you want to keep preparing food for Sandy?" Lee's voice was very gentle, with the effect of comforting her. Gu Mengmeng did not reject Lee's words, but the thought of Sandy's aggrieved look made her heart ache. Chapter 127. No. I don't think so. Gu Mengmeng had never thought that her care for Sandy would cost her life. She was in disbelief, but seeing that Leah did not look like he was joking, she could only sigh and say, "All right, I know. Then find some time to teach Bode and the rest. I feel that your skills are excellent, as long as they can learn half of your skills. Oh, no, as long as they learn 30% of your skills, Sandy would not have a stomach ache." Leah smiled and nodded, agreeing to it. Returning to Elvis's cave, Leah found a brand new set of clothes from the depths of the cave. "The one you're wearing is dirty, take it off and change into another." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to take a look. She was indeed covered in fish scales. She did not need to sniff closely to smell the fishy smell. Even she could not stand it, not to mention Elvis and Leah, who had an extremely sensitive sense of smell. Gu Mengmeng laughed awkwardly, took the new clothes from Lee's hands and looked at it. Another new one? Where's my rabbit skin dress from the last time? I threw it away." Elvis answered easily. Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched. Threw it away. Why? It's dirty. Elvis answered concisely. F*******. Gu Mengmeng exclaimed, hugging the deer-skin dress on her tightly, refusing to take it off no matter what. It's shameful to waste it. Clothes that can be worn again after washing, how can you throw it away just like that? Too much. What a waste of resources. Elvis and Leah looked at each other, feeling helpless towards Gu Mengmeng's thoughts. This girl did not even frown when she shared the precious yellow sauce in the beast world with everyone, but this beast skin, which could be taken anywhere, was extremely precious to her. Leah carried Gu Mengmeng up, measuring the new clothes while saying, there are only 4 females in the tribe, but 127 males. Even if the females change into 5 sets of new clothes every day, the tribe still has to throw away a lot of the food and fur used. Food and fur. Gu Mengmeng recalled the food that the males ate today: tiger, cheetah, snow fox. Both of them were top-grade furs. Things that were hard to find in the modern world had become disposable items in this world. No wonder Elvis could throw away his beast-skin dress without feeling the slightest bit of heartache. Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. Forgive her for being a commoner, an especially greedy commoner. Gu Mengmeng felt her heart bleeding as she thought about how she had thrown away all those precious animal skins. Cupping her hands, Gu Mengmeng looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Beast deity, don't bother about other people's divorce. Can you find some time to manage your people's extravagant lifestyle? What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Elvis asked with concern. Yeah. Gu Mengmeng nodded twice, pretending to be serious. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Let me see. Leah placed the clothes at the side and walked up with concern to hold Gu Mengmeng's little hand that was covering her heart. He wanted to see if she was injured anywhere. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, when I heard that you wanted to throw my clothes away, my entire body ached, especially my heart. As long as you promise not to throw my clothes away, I won't feel any pain. Leah could not understand at all. What kind of illness was this? He looked at Elvis, waiting for him to make a decision. Elvis was much calmer than Leah. Thinking about how she cherished the luminous pearl, he had a rough idea of what was going on. He nodded and said, as you wish, don't throw it away, then don't throw it away. I'll dig a hole just for you to put the clothes you've worn before, how about that? Aside from the topic, thank you to QQ Reader, Doryman, and Xian for the reading tokens. Thank you very much. Replying to QQ Reader's comments, Blue Sky Ancient Rhyme said that she hated NPC literature, so dear, please don't join the QQ group and just read the main content posted by Jean. The main content is a 1v1, I'll leave the rest of the content in the group as an extra to satisfy the little babies who like NPC literature. Songstress, the content you want to read will be posted in the QQ group in the future. Dear, you can join the group and wait to share it. QQ group number 4927799273. I'm not a beauty, dear, I've seen your opinion, it's the same as mine. Please join the QQ group, you'll find your comrades. Chapter 128. Aya, what the heck, rich people are indeed different, offering a house the moment they open their mouths. Do you know how much the land in the Celestial Empire is now? A cloakroom. Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up as she stared at Elvis. But, Gu Mengmeng looked at the dirty clothes on her, then looked at the new clothes that Leah had casually placed at the side. She really wanted new clothes. But, she did not want to use herself to exchange for them. There were some things that needed to be made clear. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath, and when she looked up again, the atmosphere in the cave had turned heavy. Leah knew what Gu Mengmeng wanted to say to Elvis, so he turned around and left quietly, guarding the entrance of the cave to prevent them from being disturbed. Elvis frowned. That bad premonition struck him again, enveloping him in an unknown fear. Leader. Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth, and after thinking for a while, she continued, you know I don't belong here. The culture here is very different from the place I came from. We don't mate immediately after we reach adulthood, females and males have equal status. It's a virtue and not an obligation for males to take care of females. The females who are taken care of will feel grateful and not take it for granted. Elvis listened quietly, his thin lips tightly pressed into a straight line, his heart stretched taut, afraid that Gu Mengmeng would say the words he did not want to hear. But in the end, Gu Mengmeng still said it. So, I can't mate with you. I really can't hand my entire life to someone I've only known for 3 days. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, not daring to look at Elvis's eyes. Although they had only known each other for a short period of time, she knew how good Elvis was to her. But the more she knew, the more she could not make use of this liking. Indeed, what she said now was very cruel, but it was better to cut the Gordian knot than to drag things on, waiting for Elvis to sink deeper and deeper before saying, "I've always treated you as a friend." That was something a green tea bitch would do. Seeing that Elvis did not reply, Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and continued, "If you're angry, I can understand. I should have made it clear to you at the beginning. I'm sorry for causing you to misunderstand. If it's not convenient for you to continue taking me in, I can understand. I can ask Sandy if she can take me in for a while." Elvis did not say anything, but just pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms and locked her tightly, not leaving any space between them. Just now, Elvis had truly experienced the pain of a blunt knife digging into his heart. Gu Mengmeng's words tore at his heart, making him remember the feeling of losing her with every inch of his flesh and blood. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. It was so painful that he didn't even have the strength to shout, "I'm in pain." Elvis could not think of anything else. He only knew that if he did not hug Gu Mengmeng in his arms, the invisible wound on the left side of his chest could take his life. "Elvis, you're hurting me." Gu Mengmeng could empathize with how upset Elvis was feeling because his hug made her feel the same way. His heartbeat was clearly transmitted to her through his clothes. Every single one of her senses was telling her that she had done such a cruel thing, so much so that Gu Mengmeng felt an extremely strong sense of guilt, as if she did not reject Elvis, but rather abandoned him, the kind that abandoned him after messing around with him. Aside from the topic, "Elvis, Gu Mengmeng, why did you reject me? I provided food, lodging, and play with you. I'm handsome and handsome, why did you reject me? Gu Mengmeng, your thinking is very dangerous." "Elvis, why?" "Gu Mengmeng, you're attracting green tea easily." "Elvis, what's green tea?" "Gu Mengmeng, eating your food, drinking your lodging, playing with your feelings and ravaging your body, then telling you, I only treat you as a friend." "Elvis. Then you can be green tea, I don't mind." Chapter 129. Elvis heard Gu Mengmeng's cry of pain, but he could not control his trembling arms. He did not dare to loosen even the slightest bit, afraid that Gu Mengmeng would disappear like a cloud of smoke, never to be found again. "Elvis." Gu Mengmeng could already hear the sound of her bones being hugged. She could not bring herself to criticize him, so she could only call out Elvis's name again. "Xiao Meng, don't leave me," Elvis said. Gu Mengmeng remained silent. How could she promise something she could not do? "I won't fight for the first partner position, before you forget him. I don't ask for cubs, I don't ask for partners, I don't even want a title. I only ask for you to stay by my side and let me take care of you. Don't go, don't go." Gu Mengmeng paused for a while, before realizing that the him Elvis was referring to was probably Yu Sijin. While feeling helpless, she also heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was a made-up character, he still solved her urgent problem. She would not be at a disadvantage if she paired up with Song Joong-ki. Since Elvis was sure that she could not forget her old love, and promised not to XXOO with her before she forgot him, then as long as Elvis's feelings for her faded, he would naturally give up on the thought of mating with her. Men, aren't they all like that? How much infatuation could they have? Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng squeezed her eyes hard to make herself look like she was about to cry, pretending to be hurt. "All right, before I let him go, you can't force me. As long as you do what you say, I won't leave." "Really?" Elvis used his height advantage to pull his upper body back a little, lowering his head to stare into Gu Mengmeng's clear eyes, as if this was the only way for him to believe Gu Mengmeng's promise. not leaving. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head cautiously, then smiled in a comforting manner. I just don't want to mate. Putting this aside, I still like Saint Nazaire very much. You and Leah treat me very well, and there's also the cute Sandy. I promised her that I would make all sorts of delicacies for her. If I leave just like that, she will definitely cry and say that I did not keep my promise. I can't bear to see my baby Sandy cry. As Gu Mengmeng said that, she pulled herself out from Elvis's arms and continued, but, since I can't mate with you, I can't accept your care for nothing. There were things I could do in exchange for my food and a place to live. Freeloading is not my style. Elvis wanted to say, it is enough that you can stay. But before he could open his mouth, Leah came in from outside and answered for Elvis. All right, first teach me how you brought Barit back to life. Teaching me, the witch doctor of the tribe, would be considered a great contribution to Saint Nazaire. In return, I, the witch doctor, and Elvis, the tribe leader, will be responsible for your food and daily necessities for the entire winter. How about that? Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief when she saw Leah. With only her and Elvis, the atmosphere was too awkward. Now that there was one more person, it felt much more relaxed. Smiling, Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, how is it brought back to life? Barit did not die in the first place. He just fainted from dehydration after not eating or drinking for 3 days. He just needed to replenish some water and he would naturally wake up. But then again, Barit's body is really strong. He could actually walk after drinking a few mouthfuls of water. If it was us, he would have to stay in the hospital for a few days to recuperate. Aside from the topic, thank you for the tips from QQ Reading, Mo Shang, and Doraemon. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.